Carl Sagan could not have predicted 2021, but he did see it coming. He wrote the following back in 1995, and we quote, "I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is most evident in the slow decay of substantive content in the enormously influential media, the 30-second sound bites now down to 10 seconds or less, lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance." Roll that around for a while. Those were among his final published words. He died 10 months later. Here we are 25 years later, realizing just what he was trying to tell us.
And they also asked, could you elaborate on what's the Gorgon stare that Ashton Forbes has spoken about both on social media and here on the show? I haven't had Ashton on here in a while, but the last time I did have him on, he spoke about that program, Gorgon stare, and basically wanting to know, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and why it would be so secret?
Yeah, I can't.
This is the part. This is the part, by the way, where I said I'm not sure you're going to be able to answer it if it's really in your wheelhouse. I figured you would know about it, but I figured you probably can't talk too much about Gorgon stare. But I mean, can you say anything?
Yeah. No. Nope.
Fair enough. But it is real. It does exist.
I would say that Ashton's very good at his research.
Okay. All right. I guess we will leave it at that for the Gorgon stare question.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I think we should just play the Oppenheimer. Just play Oppenheimer, guys. Like, when we're handing out the apology forms and we're forcing everyone to sign the apology forms, apologizing to MH370X for thinking that we were the same level of low brand, low IQ schizos. No, no, no. You must listen to Oppenheimer talk about I am become death, destroyer of worlds. Tonight, guys, we are talking about MH370. Talking about MH370 tonight, guys. Really excited about it. I want to talk about some of the implications. Right off the bat, I want to shout out JK Philly Fan. Guys, if you need web service work, hit up JK Philly Fan. He's been probably the most longtime supporter, actually, out of everybody out there. So, I think he's got some stuff going on. If you guys need some work for somebody who does, web-based stuff, hit him up, guys. Hit him up. You can find him on Discord. You can find him on Twitter as well. Now, that being said, I want to mention that one of the big questions that I think normal people have about MH370, the MH370 videos that you just saw, that was just playing in the intro here, is how could they keep this secret? There's no way they could keep something like this secret. It's way too big. There's way too many people involved. That's probably what keeps me up at night the most. I will say that I've been talking to one of the original investigators, and I think I've convinced them that I'm not some kind of grifter person. But of course, they still don't, I don't think anybody really believes the videos because there's just so many leaps that are required in order to believe that that's possible. So what I want to say is this. I want to say that it turns out it was actually relatively easy for them to hide it. It was relatively easy for them to hide it, in part because nobody understands physics. All the scientific papers that explain everything that's happening are out there. And the other part of it is they've built this culture where you don't go against the team. Whether that's the military's got it very well ingrained. You never go against the team. But also from the perspective of the engineers in academia and their credentials, they've got those people controlled as well. Those people are too afraid to go against the team, either because of reprisals, social awkwardness, money, anything that's out there. So that's the part that I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time accepting, was that we were easy to fool. Now, all it's going to take for the MH370 videos to be confirmed is for some brave Air Force person to speak out. Because that's Gorgon stare, wide area motion imagery. Even if they hadn't been exposed to that exact footage, they will know what Gorgon stare is, and they'll know that's Gorgon stare. And that footage being Gorgon stare, only the one, I'll bring it up because a lot of people are very confused on which one is Gorgon stare. This footage being Gorgon stare is absolute proof the videos are real. First of all, I'm the only person on the face of the earth exposing Gorgon stare, other than some guy that wrote a book that doesn't even know what it looks like. I'm actually exposing it as in, here it is, here's an example of it. So if this is Gorgon stare, this footage is real. How else could you explain that I know that this is Gorgon stare? There's no other possible logical capability. This must be true, right? So that's why that's why it's going to get proven to be real, because we're looking at a confirmed military asset recording it, and nobody in the public had any idea this even existed. They still, in 2025, don't know this capability exists. Okay? So, that being said, I want to talk about the orbs. Before we get into there's an article that I want to review, and I want to go through the details with you all, and I want to give you my inside information because, let's just be honest, I'm the #1 expert on these videos. So when it comes to the history of it, the reason why I've done all these podcasts for so long is because I wanted people to see the evolution of the discussion, evolution of the case, evolution of the evidence unfolding in real time. So it was a really good article that we're going to review tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about politics, and I'm going to explain what the orbs are. And I'm going to explain what the orbs are right now. We're not going to waste any time. Okay. What is significant about these orbs that we're watching here? Let me pull it up here. I'm going to pull up the comparison video while I talk over it here. So if you are just listening to this podcast, take a look at my YouTube channel. You can find both videos on my YouTube channel at JustXAshton or anywhere all over my Twitter account. We're looking at the thermal colored video. The thermal colored video with the Gorgon stare is kind of side by side, synced up. These orbs are a fusion reactor. They're drones that are a fusion reactor. Okay. Now, they're not just any fusion reactor. The configuration of their spherical shape narrows it down significantly. So that means these orbs are either a dense plasma focus or some type of like a pinch effect, like a theta pinch or a Z pinch in a dense plasma focus, or they're just straight up using a field reverse configuration. And these configurations are very specific. There's only a couple companies that actually do fusion using these configurations. There's LPP Fusion that does dense plasma focus. I think they're the only ones that do that. And then for the others, the field reverse configuration, you've got Tri-Alpha Energy and Helion Energy that are the ones that do that, as well as Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin has a field reverse configuration fusion reactor that went dark in 2018. Now, the other big signs, the other big tells, there's at least two more tells on here. One major thing that I'm only going to reveal today for the first time. The first one is the heat signature. The heat signature in the plasma ball. So one thing that I just mentioned, the field reverse configuration is why there's no walls around it. Why aren't we looking at metal walls around a plasma reactor? You're just looking at the plasma. And that's because of the field reverse configuration, which is the magnets are internal relative to external, or the magnets are produced by the plasma itself, which is also possible. So that's one big tell. So now this tells us, oh, maybe all those aliens and UFOs everybody is seeing, maybe those are actually these plasma balls that we're talking about here. Maybe, I don't know. I don't care. The other tell is the heat signature. The heat signature in the plasma balls, where it is yellow/green, that is the electrons. You're looking at a non-equilibrium plasma. Okay, so you may ask right now, Ashton, what the hell does non-equilibrium plasma mean? Refers to the temperature. It means that the temperature is not uniform. The temperature in the plasma is not one solid color. An equilibrium plasma is a plasma where all of it is balanced out. The temperature is balanced out. But when we look at these orbs here, look at these orbs, you can clearly see part of it is blue and part of it is green. The reason for this is because you're looking at the electrons being separated from the ions. Now get ready for this next part. This actually means something. There are X-rays coming out of the orbs. You can see these black lines in front of the orbs in the part of the video that I'm looking at right now. These are X-rays or possibly gamma rays, but the significant part is they're not in the visual spectrum. They're not in the visual spectrum. That's why they're black. I used to think this was an X or a what is it? Dark energy laser, I laughably said one time. No, it's actually the X-rays are the byproduct of the fusion reaction that's happening. X-rays are a tall tale sign that you're looking at a fusion reaction, and we're seeing these X-ray lines coming out of the orbs, not in a random location, but at axial location, as in along the axes, just like the planet Earth, a toroidal field with axes where the X-rays are either being directed or spit out of. Now, why are they X-rays? It turns out that when you slow down charged particles, they release X-rays. So what are we looking at there? We're looking at a particle collider, particle accelerator. That's what a fusion reactor is. It's a particle accelerator / decelerator. It's trapping the electrons, pre-ionizing the air, turning it into plasma, and using that plasma and causing a fusion reaction at the middle due to extremely powerful electromagnetic fields, inertial confinement fusion or magneto-inertial confinement fusion. So the other tell is it's releasing X-rays. The X-rays coming out of this plane are also why we're filming in color thermal, because they're invisible to the naked eye. You wouldn't see those X-rays normally. Are you ready for the last one? This is the biggest Yahtzee today, maybe entirely. Hold on, let me figure out how to do this the easiest way. So I'm going to share, I think I have a slow-mo version of the orbs. Let me take a look here. Drone. Okay, I think this one will work. Let me try these. There's two I want to try here. I think this one will work too. Okay, yeah, right here. Okay, chat. You ready for this? Okay, I've pulled up a blue and black color changed version of the thermal. The only reason why this version was changed was the colors were changed so that you could see the lines, the X-rays that are coming out of the plasma orbs. So you can very clearly see them in this snippet that I'm showing here. And I want to point out something huge about this. When the orbs are approaching the plane, you only see the X-rays from behind the orbs. The reason being that the orbs are using the X-rays as propulsion. The fastest a vehicle can move is the speed at which the expellant is being shot out the back of a craft. That's an aeronautical or rule or something or other. So when they are catching up to the plane, the X-rays are coming out of the back. However, as you can see in this video, when the moment that the orbs get into position around the plane, the X-rays begin to come out of the front. You begin to see the dark lines in front of the orbs. Why? What does that mean? That is 2 to 3 specific different modes that these drones have been turned on. The drones have an intercept phase where the expellant, the X-rays are being shot out the back to move and project the drone forward. When the drone gets into perfect alignment, all 3 drones are in alignment, spinning around the plane. Now they're in a hover mode. They're not trying to catch up to the plane anymore. Now they're just trying to stay stuck in position. So when you get stuck in position, how do you do that? You have the lines coming before the orbs and after. So basically, you now eject X-rays both directions. And what's that going to do? That's going to make it so you don't accelerate. So instead of accelerating, now we're just staying perfectly matching the speed of the plane, basically. And then, now you can clearly see there's dark lines behind the orbs here in this video that I'm showing you. I didn't show you the initial video of the orb attaching or getting connected or in alignment with the plane. But if you want to go take a look at that, you'll see that there's only lines behind it. Now, the last part, right before the plane disappears, there are only lines in front of the orbs now. So this is not a color change version. This is just a slow-mo of the zap. If you look very closely at this slow-mo of the plane being zapped, just before the orbs are converging, even while the orbs are converging, you can clearly see the X-rays, but only in front of the plane. Only in front of the plane. Only in front of the orbs. So this indicates that what are they doing here? I speculate that the dark lines stopped happening behind the orbs the moment they changed formation and went vertical. So I think there are 3 distinct modes of the orb's operation, which would indicate there must be something inside of them. 1, intercept. They use the X-rays and their fusion propulsion to intercept the plane. Once they get around the plane, one sec, let me grab my prop. Where's my props? Chat, where's my props? Here. I was doing some spring cleaning here. Okay. Mode number 1. Plane is flying. Orbs intercept the plane. Then, when they're spinning 360 degrees around the plane, they have both axial jets turned on, forward and back. And this is what's allowing them to spin multidirectionally around the plane. When the orbs are in their final phase, they go vertical around the plane, perfectly vertical around the plane. This is where I suspect they only now have on their forward-facing X-rays. They've closed off the exhaust off the back. This could be to charge them up, could have another purpose that I haven't yet concluded. The significant part about this is that it shows that these orbs are not just some autonomous ball of plasma that's been shot out. Although I know Bob Grenier and others think that it's just plasma in there, there's nothing inside there. That's not possible if what I'm saying is true about them switching modes like that. For them to switch configurations like that while they're moving around, there's got to be something mechanical inside there. That's my opinion. Okay, guys, that is your big Yahtzee for the day. Let's dig into this tonight, guys. Thank you for being here, by the way. Okay. Where do the orbs originate from? Good question. Where do they originate from? They can originate from anywhere. If there's something mechanical in there, they need to be shot out of a cannon. So like a torpedo or some kind of, we have these planes that launch other planes and have big cannons on them, something like that. If it is just plasma, then it's using a plasma cannon to shoot up and wind up these orbs that are then like smoke rings that say stable. So those are the possibilities. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me take a look here. Okay. Politics, guys. I'll get the chat up here for this as well. We have a couple political issues to discuss today, and they're big ones. Number one, Epstein. Number one is Epstein. So I think we are one of the only people that have been talking about the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was compromising academics, physicists, and he was doing gravitational wave support. He did a whole conference with Lawrence Krauss, who's a famous astrophysicist. Stephen Hawking was supposedly at Epstein Island. Epstein ended his own life. When was that? 2019, 2020, something like that. I don't even exactly remember the year. Well, now everybody cares about the Epstein files. What's really crazy to me is that these people never once mention it. You see social media influencers going up there to like every Democrat politician who's now demanding the Epstein files, and they just ask Grok, how many times have they ever mentioned the Epstein files? And it's zero. Zero every single time. So yes, Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking women to elites. Absolutely. These people don't care. They never care. There's so many of them in Washington who it's just because it's an issue now they're going to, make a whole stink about it. But they never cared before. So the Democrats have been pretending like they care about Epstein now because they thought in their minds they were going to use it to get Trump. Because Elon was spreading rumors that Trump was in the Epstein files, blah, blah, blah. So what happened? Well, some of the Epstein files leaked. They've been out there. Democrats selectively leaked certain files or certain emails to try to make it look like they were connected to Trump, but it was just Virginia Giuffre, and she is already pretty much exonerated Trump, said he wasn't involved. So the Democrats got a black eye from that. Guys, it gets even worse. If you've been living under a rock, the last few days have been so hysterical. So first, some more of the emails got pushed out on the internet, right? All of these Epstein emails. And so what are they finding when they're going through these emails? Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump. He hated Trump. He's in these emails talking about trying to compromise him, and like they're making jokes about him, and not in a flattering way, in a way where like most people were brainwashed into hating Trump in like 2014, 2015, in that kind of way. Okay. So they start looking through the emails and they're not finding anything that is implicating Trump at all in Epstein. But what do they find? What do they find? Chat. Oh, they find text messages between Jeffrey Epstein and I think it's Puerto Rican Congresswoman, don't get me wrong, Stacey Plaschett. Democrat Representative Stacey Plaschett was literally texting with Epstein in 2019, get this, while she's in a hearing trying to bring down Donald Trump. Oh, what? She's literally asking him for advice in the middle of the hearing, in the middle of the congressional hearing or whatever it was, asking Jeffrey Epstein what she should say next. What should I say next? And he says, bring up his assistant. I forget what her name was. And she doesn't recognize the person's name. And she goes, what's that? Is that an acronym? He's like, that's his assistant. Literally getting smear advice in real time. This is after I think Jeffrey Epstein was convicted too, guys. So it's not like this is the craziest thing. And so, of course, everybody's blowing this up on social media. And her response, her real response, Rona, yes, thank you. Rona was the assistant's name. her real response was to claim, well, he's my constituent. I'm just helping my constituent out. Stacey Plaskett. OMG, chat. OMG. So now the Democrats don't want to talk about Epstein anymore because it's implicating them in some really sick stuff. Like, could you imagine if in the middle of some kind of hearing, Trump is texting Jeffrey Epstein? It doesn't even matter what the context is. Democrats will be using this as proof that Trump is a pedophile. Everybody would be. The woke right would be doing it too. And instead, they don't want to talk about it. Hakeem Jeffries was getting donations from Jeffrey Epstein. He was getting donations from him. This thing. So people want to know. Nobody actually really wants to know my take on Epstein, but I'm going to give it anyway. I think Trump is right. Trump is always right, bro. He's always right. The Epstein files are a Democrat hoax. And what I mean by that is not that Jeffrey Epstein didn't do it. I mean, he got convicted. He got convicted. Of course he did it. The question was Trump implicated? How were the Democrats going to use them as a narrative? And they tried to use them as a narrative that it was Trump that was connected to it. They're going to bring down Trump with this. And it backfired in the most spectacular way possible. So here we are now. What's going to happen next? My impression is nothing is going to happen. This is the biggest nothing burger ever. This is going to be a 4,000 calorie nothing burger, chat. This is going to be impossible beef. You're going to bite in, you're going to know something is wrong. Something is very wrong with this burger. It doesn't taste right. It doesn't taste right. And what are we going to find out? We're basically going to find out nothing. All of these emails that already leaked, there's thousands of emails. And they're implicating Democrats. They're not implicating Trump at all. Somebody would have found it by now. You're not going to find some new smoking gun. If there was some specific evidence that linked to a specific person that was compelling enough for the court of law, they would have probably already brought charges against them. That's my belief. Now, you would say, Ashton, you're not conspiratorial enough. Maybe. I don't think there's going to be enough evidence to convict anybody else. I mean, just vague innuendo on emails isn't enough. And I seriously doubt that Jeffrey Epstein was dumb enough that there are emails from, I won't even name anybody specifically because I don't want to get sued. But like, let's just say person XYZ, some elite person XYZ is like, yeah, I want a 15-year-old girl. Hook it up, bro. Are you really expecting something like that? Are you really expecting there to be like a list? Like Jeffrey Epstein was like, here's the list of people that I sold out children to. Guys, what are you talking about, man? So I think it's going to be a major letdown. And I just think it's funny because Thomas Massey and MTGG, I call her, have been getting destroyed by Donald Trump. Absolutely getting destroyed. They're going to primary them. They're going full woke. And here's Massey going, I passed the Epstein bill. Ooh, look at how great I am. And he's posting links to his donations website. Support me, please, everybody. Donald Trump hates me, and I passed the most important bill ever at bipartisan support. Bro, you didn't do anything. You didn't do it. Never count your chickens before they're hatched, chat. Never count your chickens before they're hatched. Thomas Massey and MTG promised us that the survivors know the names of the guilty parties and that they will read them aloud on TV. Now they're backtracking. Now they're saying, no, that's not my responsibility to do that. Bro, you're claiming that you're the guy that figured all this out. You're the guy that passed the bill. You're the guy that's going to read the names. You know why they don't want to do that? Because there's nothing there. They're just using it like virtue signaling. Everybody hates pedophiles. I'm against pedophiles. You're not against pedophiles. If you're against pedophiles, vote, support me. Pay me $100. Donate to my cause. Meanwhile, how many bills has Thomas Massey passed? Guy's been an elected official for like 13 years or something like that. How many bills has Thomas Massey passed before this? Zero, chat. Absolutely nothing. In fact, this guy got remarried to a new wife in just 1 year. Let's just be generous. 16 months. 16 months after his wife of 30 years dies, mother to his children. And 1 year later, he's getting married to a Rand Paul staffer that was a colleague of his in the past, that's 20 years younger than him. 1 year later. And this is the person that wants to virtue signal about how they passed the Epstein bill? Okay, bro. Okay, Massey. I just have to say, guys, if you are falling for this, then you're not a critical thinker. It's very, very easy to virtue signal. And that's why the left and the woke people do it all the time. That's why they do it all the time. And all the woke right people they ripped a page straight out of the left's playbook, guys. And they're virtue signaling to you guys on about Epstein because they know it's one of those positions where you must be against this. It's the same thing that you hear on the Israel war where they say, you're not against genocide? How horrible a person are you? You're either against genocide and therefore you hate Israel, or you're a bad person, right? That's how they frame it. It's all about the framing of you as a bad person. If you are falling for this, you are being brainwashed. You are being brainwashed, and that's the simple. The world is not all rainbows and utopia idealism, guys. Now, the last thing I want to mention on this before we go into the MH370 stuff is a follow-up on the Nick Fuentes thing. Last time I said Nick Fuentes is just a kid looking for a hug, right? He's sitting there saying that MAGA is dead. And then the very next day, Donald Trump doesn't even praise him. Doesn't praise him at all. Donald Trump just says that Tucker Carlson should be allowed to talk to Nick Fuentes. And just from not putting down Nick Fuentes, Nick took this as he's endorsing me, he loves me, and he's there, thank you, Mr. President. Oh, thank you so much, good sir. Which is just, that's the tell, man. That's the tell. If you're falling into this, like what Nick is doing is fun, but it's performative. Like a lot of people think that what Nick is saying is like he's doing it seriously. No, he's just blurring the lines between satire and politics. And that's where it gets to the line where you can't tell what he really believes and what he doesn't, which is why I think it's appropriate for people to use his words against him. If he's not going to be clear about what he believes and what he doesn't, then people should be allowed to use all his words against him. That's the point of when you tote that line between satire and reality, that's the problem, because people listen and they do take it seriously. They do take it seriously and they do think he's being serious all the time. So I want to point out that just yesterday, the mask finally slipped. If he's not joking, if Nick is being serious, then what he said is that the left and the right need to unify. Nick said this 100%. He said the left need to give up on immigration and the right needs to give up on whatever the pro-Israel stuff, right? This is horseshoe theory in action. In fact, it's so wild because I made the joke that, oh, yes, they should unify together and they should form the National Socialist Workers Party. That would be perfect. The nationalist right and the socialist left, mix them together, and they're unstoppable, chat. They're unstoppable. The question is, how many of you understood the joke? How many of you understood the joke? Guys, what was the name of the Nazi party? How many people actually know the real name of the Nazi party? Oh, it was the National Socialist German Workers' Party. If your mind is going, what? Yep, this is a fun one to learn. Turned out the Nazi party was actually the Nationalist Socialist Workers' Party. That was literally the name of them. And now we're just seeing history repeat itself once again. History repeating itself once again. The guy that idealizes Stalin and Hitler literally openly idealizes Stalin and Hitler, wants to unify the socialist left with the nationalist right to create a new populist movement. Wow. Guys, I think I've heard this story before. It doesn't go very well for the Jews. So, I was right. I told you, and you didn't listen. Woke right is equal to woke left. And you are being subverted by people that are fundamentally for leftist ideals, censorship, removal of rights. That is what the Nick Fuenteses of the world represent. If they were ever to get power, that's exactly what they are going to do. They are going to do the exact same thing that the left is doing. They only give lip service to this idea of freedom of speech. And the only reason why they do it is because they want to be able to grift and platform. If they let the mask slip and let people know that they were not for freedom of speech, then they would not be allowed to have a platform. They would be hypocrites. But they say it all the time. They want to censor. They always say, shut up, stop talking. They always say, we're going to deport you, even though you're an American. Even though you have every right to be in this country. We're going to get rid of you. We're going to silence you. They love to suppress and silence people. They just don't like it when it happens to them. And this is not just them. It's everybody. It's the human condition, guys. That's the world we live in. So now that we've addressed that, giving you my dose of politics for the day. And if anybody heckles me, let me tell you this. You quiet down, piggy. You quiet down, piggy. Guys, Trump called a journalist piggy today or something. There's a lot of drama about it, and everybody's virtue signaling about how horrible a person he is. Guys, he's basically a second semester senior at this point, right? Trump is in his second term. He doesn't care who he offends. There's no canceling him. There's no impeaching him. So just act right. I mean, if you don't want to get dismantled by the president, don't take shots at him. Stop asking stupid questions, right? This is the problem, is that the media asks dumb questions all the time. I don't blame him. If I was ever president, my questions would be just as crass, just as rude. I'd be like, I'm done with stupid questions. I want smart ones. Okay, guys, let's get right into this. Quick update. The Jason Giorgiani interview should drop tomorrow. Before we get into look at that, I want to take a look at this interview. This is an interview with dark journalist interviewing John Warner IV. Now, there's a few clips in here that I want to go through because they're a little bit relevant, I think, or just interesting in general. And I want to start here about 12:30. So John Warner and dark journalists are talking about the Age of Disclosure movie. They're talking about controlled disclosure from these weird UFO people, which they are weird, and they are very, very heavily leftist. I want to point out the UFO community is extremely leftist when it comes to its political viewpoints. I don't say this to disparage them, though of course I am. I say this because they just want to fuck aliens. Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. They have this weird fetish about aliens, and it has very clearly clouded their judgment in my minds, to the point where even when I would ask people, they thought there's no way it can be human technology. It has to be aliens because they've turned the aliens into this belief system almost. It's almost like a religion at this point and how it works. So what I like about John Warner is that he talks about the technology. And in fact, the first time I heard John Warner was on Dark Journalist, and they were talking about the technology here. So here we go.
Right? Oh, you might get more truth. Oh, maybe I can tell you in a skiff, John.
Yeah, which is not secure. A skiff is not secure. Nowhere is secure.
Right.
You're dealing with surveillance technology that is quantum entanglement. You can pick up the phone and call somebody in the Andromeda Galaxy, and they'll wake up and say, "What do you want?" And it's like they're in the room next door. That's quantum entanglement. You don't need a skiff. They can listen into anything. Everyone's like, "Well, I got to put my phone in the microwave." You know, I'm like,
come on, reconnaissance is like,
the bottom of the ocean.
So that's a great point. that John Warner brings up there. Honestly, we should be mentioning this. I feel embarrassed that I haven't been mentioning this. These people talking about, I got to talk to you in a skiff. Anybody says that, they have no clue what we're hiding. It's just so ridiculous on its face. And like, guys, if you have ever talked to me, several people have reached out to me behind the scenes and what have you, and I've talked to it, and they always want to go on Signal or 50 kind of layers of encryption. I go, bro, why bother, man? There's no encrypting communications. We have quantum capabilities that can crack any encryption there is. They can listen to you and see you through the walls. There is absolutely, if they want to listen to you, they're going to listen to anything and everything that you're saying. So this idea that we got to go to the secure facility, which by the way, guys, is like, just they have these designated facilities around the country where like it's just some random dentist office basically. But you go in there, and SCIF means that there are certain security protocols that need to exist. So you have these security protocols. So like you go through the front door, you hand over your phone, they take it away, and then you go to a building, right? And all the data in the SCIF is not allowed to leave. This is actually where the MH370 videos came from. The MH370 videos would have had to come out of a SCIF because of the screen recording. Nobody would have been able to, we originally thought, well, maybe they were like using the Citrix session and he's on his laptop at home and he's logged in. No, no, dude. You are not allowed to log into like secure surveillance mechanisms from home on a laptop because it would obviously be not secure. You have to actually like be in the facility using a computer that's there. Now you might be able to bring a laptop into the facility though, and that would probably let you get it out. My guess is what happened is that they brought a flash drive. They had a flash drive, and these files were already being copied to be sent to, or wherever they save them for the long term, and they flash drived it, and they got the flash drive out of the SCIF. That's the most likely scenario, but to be honest with you, I'm speculating. And a lot of the information I'm telling you here is secondhand. I've never actually been inside a SCIF myself, but I've talked to people who have. Okay. So next thing about the narrative. John Warner brings up a lot of really good points, I thought, here. And so does Dark Journalist. In fact, I do now want to collab with Dark Journalist, mostly because of what I've learned from the nuclear weapons side. So people wonder, hey, why did you not want to collab with Dark Journalist before? I was never really against him. I just knew he really didn't think the videos were real, and pretty harshly. So, but now that I know it's nuclear weapons and it goes back to nuclear weapons, I know he and Joseph P. Farrell have talked about nuclear weapons a lot. I'm curious to probe and see how much he knows about the connection between nuclear weapons and UFOs. Yeah, here we go.
Good intentions. He wants to soften the blow to religious people. I understand that, and I do. But you can only soften the blow of this mega cannonball so much. It's going to punch through a wall.
But what if it's even more cynical than that, John?
Going really fast.
What if they just want to think of it from a more cynical thing with Teal just for a moment? What if he's doing this because he's had those groups in the background in the marketing grids, and he's figured out, if I can get the Christians on board with my UFO thing, then I can hijack the entire space.
So I think DJ takes it a little too far there. We're saying, well, they're trying to hijack the UFO movement. They're trying to co-opt it. I also don't think they're trying to do a threat narrative either. I don't think it's actually any of those. I don't think they care what the motivation of the aliens is. Whether or not the aliens are malevolent or benevolent, if they're good or evil, why would any humans care about that? I don't think that they care about what the narrative is. That maybe the aliens are evil, right? How would we know? So I don't subscribe to the theories that they're trying to present a threat narrative specifically, because I haven't seen that. And I don't subscribe to this idea that Peter Thiel is trying to take over the UFO phenomenon. However, there is clearly a concerted collective belief that is growing that the UFOs and aliens are related to angels and demons. I do see that a lot. And I do agree with John Warner that what are they really trying to do is they're trying to soften the blow. They're trying to soften the blow. They're trying to make it so that it's palatable. When this information, when this technology comes out, and we've got free energy microchips that are in our phone here, they're trying to make it so that people don't lose their minds, so that people's minds don't break. when we realize we have unlimited access to energy, like unlimited, right? They're trying to make it so that people's minds don't break when they realize that we are just on a tiny speck of dust in this giant universe, and we are probably insignificant to the greater universe at large. We are probably a very lesser evolved subspecies that's not even on the main, we're not even major players on the universal stage. And so the thing is, John Warner is also right. It's not going to work. This is like, look at what the MH370 videos represent. They potentially represent free energy, straight up free energy. Okay. So we might be in a situation where none of us should have been having to slave away to work ever, literally ever, because we potentially have access to unlimited energy. And maybe they're just waiting until the AI and the robots catch up to release that information. But whenever that comes out, it's going to be catastrophic. So this is where when the disclosure people say, here's all the negative externalities of what will happen, they're not lying about that. That's really the reason why they're slow pushing this, because they're trying to make it so that people's minds don't break. They're trying to cushion the fall for people here. I mean, just look at the way people reacted to the MH370 videos. I mean, people are violently opposed to them. Violently opposed to them. And you would think, like, why you care so much? If the videos are fake, why would you care? Why do you care if they're real? Why does it matter so much? Why are people so emotionally invested in something being fake? And the reason is because their worldview is not compatible with those videos. Their worldview is not compatible with those videos. Think about that. And that's a true statement, because their worldview doesn't allow for secret technology, doesn't allow for government cover-ups, doesn't allow for things that they saw in Marvel movies to be actually real things that exist in the real world. In their worldview, they're the main player. They're the main character. And they can't be getting lied to. It's not possible, right? So this is the big thing. A lot of it comes down to being conditioned to cushion the fall for this. Now, that's what I love what we're doing the most, because we're essentially, they're trying to cushion the fall, right? Like we're doing trust falls, and they're trying to catch people, and we're just grabbing those people and pulling them out of the way and making people fall and hit the ground. That's why I love what I do, chat. That's what I love, because I'm not a good person, chat. So they're trying to catch all these people that are having mental breaks. And I'm going, nah. We're going to make them have a mental break. We're going to make them lose their minds. Because the only way this ever stops, the only way we ever fix this situation we found ourselves in now, is if we break these people's psyche. Like, we need people's minds to break. I want it so that nobody ever trusts government ever again. And you might be like, Ashton, aren't you a hypocrite? Won't that make more Candace Owens out there? Yeah, probably will. Probably will, chat. I'm probably about to make it so there's like 100 times more Candace Owens, chat. I'm probably going to make it so there's 100 times more Candace. Nothing's real. Everything's fake. The space laser Jews are doing all of it, bro. But here's the thing. I don't even care, because that's what these people deserve. That's what they deserve. That's what they deserve for zapping an airplane away. That's what they deserve for covering up like Star Trek level technology. Covering up Star Trek level technology. And I think that he says it. I don't think we're going to play the clip here. Maybe he does say it. They're covering the Star Trek technology up. And what happened was they just started covering it up. Maybe it started off as a noble thing. Like in the 60s, they were like, we're not ready, man. We're not ready in the 60s. We haven't even had Woodstock yet. And they were like, we got to cover this up. The problem was it got into a situation where they could just never tell the truth. It got out of control. It got out of hand. Like, it was okay to lie about it for like 20 years or like 10 years. But now we're 60 years later. Still no disclosure on the horizon. Still everything is being covered up. The system is doing its job. Defense contractors are getting rich. Technology is seeping out, making people billionaires. But us normal working class people, we have nothing. We have nothing. This is what happened. It got too out of control. It got too out of control, and now nobody wants to fess up, because anybody that fesses up is going to face the full force of the retribution. Like Edward Teller might have been partially responsible for this, but he's dead now, so he doesn't ever have to take the criticism. That's what these engineers are doing. These engineers are trying to wait out the clock. All these people that are responsible for this, they're doing these movies and stuff now because they know in the future it'll all be admitted to be real, and then people will go back to these movies and be like, oh, they were the ones who were trying to tell us. And then we'll look on them in a good light. But the reality is they're complicit. Hal Puthoff is complicit. Eric Davis is complicit in the cover-up. He should, if they're not complicit, they should break their NDAs. They should say that they are whistleblowers, and they should tell the truth. And the reason why they're not doing that is money. It's money. Let's just be honest. It's money. Eric Davis doesn't want to lose his pension or whatever contracts or whatever deals he's got in place. It all boils down to money. So I don't have a lot of sympathy. And this is where, in this next clip, John Warner pretty much lays this out.
Tell us anything about it.
But
well, how about without mentioning any names?
I don't know their names, but I've heard.
Oh yeah,
I've heard that a lot of people are unhappy. I heard Eric Davis was unhappy.
Interesting.
Then nothing gets done at the Soul meetings.
Yeah,
but a lot of these guys have NDAs, and I'm sorry, a lot of them seem like cowards to me.
And they're looking for investment more than anything else. A lot of them.
I can't come forward with my NDA. I'm going to get whacked or something. Okay,
right.
But still,
but I want to go back to this administration thing because I just want.
Honestly, that's just such a great point, and I think Eric Davis is upset. Definitely is, man. Why is Eric Davis talking to Dave Rossi? Why is he answering all these questions? He's a smart guy. He's got to be able to read between the lines on the questions that I fed Dave Rossi to ask him about fusion, about teleportation. Eric Davis is a smart guy. He can see why these questions are being asked, right? So, and he's not doing the Hal Puthoff thing. He's not having a case of the amnesias. Hal Puthoff gets asked about 0 point energy. He's like, what's 0 point energy? I don't even know what that's all about. What you got to tell me what it's all about. I don't know about those technologies. Eric Davis is like the opposite. Eric Davis is like, oh, hey, let me list off all the aneutronic fusion fuels. You got helium, you got boron 11. Oh, and you also got lithium, and lithium's a thermonuclear weapon. You're like, okay. Okay, Eric Davis, you want to keep talking? You want to keep talking? So, but at the same time, and Avi Loeb made Eric Davis stand down while he was explaining negative energy, which was one of the weirdest moments ever. Like, Avi Loeb was getting visibly upset while Eric Davis was explaining negative energy to Congressman Burleson and Congresswoman Luna. Like, why are you getting so upset at a guy just explaining negative energy to people? He's like, none of this is real. This is like, he's like, this is not experimentally proven. You're like, bro, yeah, okay. I don't know, man. People give me weird vibes, but I don't always think it's nefarious. But again, point being, they should just come out and be whistleblowers. Just come out and whistleblow. Say you're a whistleblower. Say we're doing illegal operations under the guise of national security. Say that it's all related to nuclear weapons research. I guarantee you'll get news articles. I guarantee there'll be people that want to talk to you about it. I know I will. So that's my opinion on that. One more clip here. It's a pretty interesting comment. John Warner is a really interesting guy. I want to talk to this guy. I emailed him after this because I want to see if I can finagle a convo with him.
Industrial complex.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, our troops need the best of the best. Thanks for that. But, he'll say it to you. He's like, as soon as we complete a weapon system, we've already got one on the drawing board. That's so much better, man.
Wow.
It's so cool. Wait till you see it. Oh, I can't talk about it. We're not a public company. You can't invest in me. It's a private company. They won't take public investors. And, so they've got weapons on the drawing boards that are just coming out, being spat out of prototyping faster than the ones that are already online. let's just take the submarine with my dad's name on it. What are in those torpedo warheads? What are the configurations? They could take a module out and put a module in. I mean, what capabilities does it have? I guarantee you it'll go 100 knots underwater because it's got a 0-point energy electromagnetic bubble around it.
Wow.
As any good modern submarine should have. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the Russians have them too.
Man, this is so crazy, chat. Do you guys know, why don't we talk about submarines more often? The number one thing, I've spoken to a lot of people behind the scenes and what have you, people I've never mentioned and stuff like that as well. One of the things that I think people should be asking more questions about is our submarine capabilities. Those are like some of the most closely guarded secrets. You want to know why? Because just like John Warner said, we're using electromagnetism in our submarines. Why wouldn't we be? Of course we are. Of course we're using electromagnetism in the submarines. In fact, what do our torpedoes look like? Well, somebody asked me earlier, where are the orbs coming from? They're almost certainly coming from a submarine. At least one of them is. You can see it come right out of the water. So they're almost certainly coming from submarines. And at this point, I want to play this clip from Donald Trump talking about submarines. I'll skip ahead a little bit so we can just get to the main context of it. But before I do that, the other thing, he was hating on, John Warner was hating on Lucky Palmer. I think his name. He's like, he's an idiot. He kind of is an idiot. He's like a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I mean, I like him, but he's an idiot, right? But the point being that Palmer Lucky does talk about this, like they're advancing the weapons so quickly. The moment they roll one off, they've already got the next best one coming up behind. This is really how fast these quantum technologies are advancing, are going to continue to advance, because the AI is constantly building a better prototype, because AI can work better and faster than we can at optimizing things. So the other thing that made me wonder is about the orbs themselves, is that those orbs are a custom weapon. Those are a custom weapon that probably a defense contractor built, but maybe our own DOE labs built them. Hard to say. But those are the kinds of things where there might not be a trail back to those orbs anymore. They might have built a new version of them. They'll be using the same technology. They'll still be using fusion propulsion. But those exact ones probably aren't ones where, you can buy that off the Target shelf, right? So, interesting. Okay. Let me play the clip. So that was the Dark Journalist interview. I watched most of it, not all of it. But pretty interesting. I like hearing John Warner talk about the technology that's out there, because, I think he's pretty accurate. I think, where is it? Here we go. Nuclear subs.
But I announced that, based on his mention of, I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them.
Chat, how do you not like President Trump? How do people not like President Trump? Chat, 10 years ago, 2015, I wanted to hate this guy. I was CNN brained. I've said this many times. I'm a recovering CNN brain. Don't hold it against me. Please don't hold it against me. I've dealt with my demons in my past for 10 years straight, and I've regretted my life decisions since then. But how do you just not love this man? I don't understand it. I don't trust anyone that doesn't love this man. There's two N-words, and you're not allowed to say either of them. Perfect.
Can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better, we have newer, but it's something we don't ever want to even have to think about. But when somebody mentions it, that submarine started immediately thereafter. And it's just lurking, but I'm sure we're not going to have to use it. But it's an amazing, it's undetectable, totally. Ours is, theirs isn't. Theirs are totally detectable. We can detect them easily. We go right to the spot. But we have genius apparatus that doesn't allow detection. It doesn't allow detection at all by anybody above water or below water. It's incredible. We're way ahead of everybody in that, and other things.
And other things, chat. We're way ahead of everybody on that and other things. How are people still not taking us seriously here? How are people not taking us seriously here? You've got the president of the United States saying we've got weapons nobody understands. He said it multiple times. And we've got his science and technology advisor saying we can manipulate time and space. Then right there, I don't think Trump should even be saying that, but he's out there just saying they can't even detect our submarines. Why? Guys, go ahead, brainstorm. Why can't they detect our submarines? And how can we detect theirs? Oh, we're probably using like a plasma sheath around our submarine, and or our submarine is literally some psycho Terminator, Lockheed Martin, morphine edge submarine walls on it, you know, some weird metamaterial they coated it in. And therefore it like scatters all radar rays back at the target or something like that, right? It's going to have some weird stuff like that. And how can we detect their submarines? Well, quantum technologies. We got Batman technologies, chat. We got echolocation. We got echolocation at the ether level. We're using quantum technologies to detect anything that goes right through salt water. And we can just detect everything that's in the water anywhere. Simple as that. And yet, we're supposed to believe in 2014 that a Boeing 777, the size of a city block, flew around in the air for 8 hours. With nobody knowing where it's going or what it was doing. And nobody decided to do anything. United States military had no idea there was a Boeing 777 the size of a city block flying past its military bases, flying past multiple military bases. No one had any idea. That's what we're supposed to believe until the MH370 videos came out. Where's my thing? Wait, I think I have it over here. No, here. Okay, chat, hold on. I thought I was prepared. Now I'm looking around trying to find the link, and I don't see it. Wait a minute. Did I close it without paying attention? Ruh-roh, chat. Okay, well, I'll just pull it up. I've got it. I mean, I don't know what I just did to it, but I think I just closed it. Okay, so I was roaming around. I think I took a look at Reddit, maybe. Don't hold it against me. And I saw a link to an article that was pretty good about MH370. It's called, Was Flight MH370 Teleported? Was it teleported? Here you go, guys. So tonight, I'm going to go through this entire thing here. Kind of long, give you guys my context on this, help you guys out. For the people that are new to the MH370 case, let me just reiterate one more time. It's only going to take one thing to prove the videos are real. Gorgon stare, wide area motion imagery. Don't need the science. Don't even need the second video. Once the one video is confirmed to be Gorgon stare, that's it. So ask yourself this. How long will it take before an Air Force person who is scrupulous, who wants the truth to come out, reaches out to me or Stephen Greer or one of the other people that is in the sphere that I've talked to, reaches out to one of them and says, I want to go on the record. They say, I want to go on the record. I'm going to show my face. I'm going to show my name. And I'm going to tell you that I know that footage is Gorgon stare. Maybe because they want to be famous. Maybe just because they want to do the right thing. How long until that happens? It's going to happen at some point. It's going to happen at some point because, you know, forever is a very, very long time. So I just want people to remember that. Because when people say, why are you so confident, Ashton? Well, because I know the videos are real, and I know that all it takes to prove the videos are real is Edward Lynn to come out and admit that I was right about him, that he leaked the videos, or for anybody in the Air Force, which has to be thousands of people that have seen Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery, to say, yep, that's Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery. That's pretty much it. The sad part is, I don't think it'll move the needle. I think that even after people have to admit that I'm right, that it's Gorgon stare, they're just going to come up with a new excuse. They'll just say, oh, the military faked the video, or they'll say that I just got lucky. They'll say, I just got lucky. It's just a coincidence that it looks exactly like Gorgon's stare. It's a coincidence. The hoaxer was in the Air Force in the 2013 or something, right? I mean, there's nothing that would make sense, but I think that's what will end up happening. Or they'll just ignore it. Or they'll just straight up ignore it, which is what their favorite thing to do is every time I have a new revelation like Gorgon's stare, all the debunkers go silent. Nobody says anything. Just nope. Nothing whatsoever. That's how you deal with somebody that you can't debate, somebody you can't address. You silent. You don't answer them. You don't address them. Anyway. Okay, here we go. Let's get right to this, guys. Okay, the beginning of the situation. I'm gonna make this a little bigger here. Let me take a look. How is this? I'll make it full screen for you guys. How's that? These are the archive links. So when people want to find the archive links, there's a couple archive links in here. Here's the video side by side. I'm just going to play it here so you can see. This was actually the first side by side video that was created. And this was way back when we first thought that there was like this parallax. It's like two side by side versions of the Gorgon stare. That still might be stereoscopic. But so the reason why this one looks cut off halfway is because we only later found out there was a full widescreen version that was the highest definition. Okay, so let's decide. Are the videos real or fake? It's going to be up to you to decide. First one, satellite video. Now we know this is not satellite video. The first oldest version that's on the internet is stereoscopic. What does stereoscopic mean? That's what stereoscopic means. That means there's a left side and there's a right side, and they're not the same. There's a left side and the right side, and they're not the same. You get it? They're not the same on both sides. There's a slight angle difference between the left side and the right side. Why is that huge? Because that could mean that those pods on the drone that are looking down, they're both recording, and then they're overlapping that footage to make the final scene. And that would make sense because it would give depth, just like how our eyes give depth when we look at stuff. Okay? So now you're learning about surveillance capabilities already. So the first version was stereoscopic. I almost never show the stereoscopic version because it doesn't look as clean as the non-stereoscopic does. Now, the fact that it says satellite video, airliner, and UFOs, that right there tells us that the person that named this video was probably Regicide Anon. It was not the leaker. And it also tells us the leaker did not give Regicide Anon enough context about this video. So it's possible Regicide Anon just picked this video up from somewhere it was left on the internet intentionally for people to find, because they got the video wrong. If this person was the leaker and their goal was to leak the videos and to tell us about them, they would have said, Gorgon stare, wide area motion imagery. That's what it would say in the title of this video. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of scary to think about what they're capable of if they can do this. Now, part of this as well is that the video was uploaded May 19th, but it says in the description, received March 12th, 2014. So the video was supposedly leaked from the skiff 4 days after. So the video leaked from the skiff 4 days after, but the video wasn't published until May 19th. So now we have a window. So this is where people get confused and they say, oh, the videos were on the internet 4 days later. There's not enough time. They weren't on the internet the 4 days later, or they might have been. We just don't have any proof. We have proof they were on the internet May 19th. In there, it says they were received March 12th. So how you reconcile that is up to you. And even the debunkers have no answer for this. This is one of the things that I would constantly say. If the videos are fake, why did Regicide Anon claim that they received them March 12th? How does that make any sense? Were they intentionally trying to make it look like MH370? It's pretty dark to make a hoax that is, you're trying to get people to think that it's MH370. And right here, we know that's the case. People initially, one of the biggest things that people used to say on Reddit in the first week, they would say, That's not MH370. There's no reason to believe that's MH370. And this was odd. The way that people said this was like they were trying to get us to not believe it's MH370. There's no reason to believe it's MH370. That could be any Boeing 777. If you go look on Reddit, you'll find dozens of comments that say this. That could be any Boeing 777, not the one that's missing. Could be any one. And we didn't know about the metadata for a while. For several months, I don't think we knew about the metadata, at least several weeks. And there you go. Right there in the metadata says right there, Malaysian Airlines. And it says Flight 370 directly in the metadata of the video. So even though the descriptions do not say MH370 in them, the metadata of the videos does say MH370 in them. So no question, the plane that we're looking at is at minimum meant to depict MH370. And this is not a surprise because when we look at the coordinates are literally the coordinates of the plane. It's like if you pick a random spot on Earth, it's like right where the plane is supposed to be. Oh, okay. So it's obviously MH370. Okay, great. Here's the full scene. The full scene, if you unwrap the whole scene. So what this shows is that we're clearly looking at wide area motion imagery. What you're looking at right here is if you take the view move, they move the screen around. If you add all that up, you can see a full perspective of the world. There is absolutely no way in hell a human being made this. Let me be clear. There is no way in hell that a human being made this. In order to make what we're looking at right here, a human being would have to make a massive, super high resolution image using multiple photos and then record for no reason whatsoever, record them moving their mouse cursor and screen through that image that they created. That's not a thing that exists in the real world. That doesn't exist. That's not a real thing that exists, but it only does exist in wide area motion imagery. Because that's literally one of the main functions of Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery is being able to move a window around to track an object. So again, like this is actually ridiculous that people were trying to claim that somebody made a collage of photos into a super high resolution image and then filmed a fake plane flying through it while they were moving their screen around. Once again, that's not a thing that exists in the real world. And this is where people need to be more critically minded. The debunkers are not critically minded people. They're not skeptics. They're just retards. They're literally just retards that are on the same intellectual level as Candace Owens. Look at it. This plane happened to be in this location. This means that this is a conspiracy. Like that's the same stupid level of reasoning people are using when they're trying to rationalize how a human being did this. Because nobody did. Okay, let's keep going. And let me be clear. These are not stock clouds, you fucking idiot. Like, how stupid are you people? They are not stock clouds. The clouds literally move in the videos. There's no argument that can be made that we are looking at static clouds. I'm going to have to show the video I can see. For the mentally retarded people in the chat, let me go ahead and show you how simple it is to prove you wrong. You can literally see the clouds moving. All we had to do was speed up the footage. It turns out when you look at clouds for 3 seconds from tens of thousands of feet away, they don't look like they're moving very much. You know what we call this? We call this basic understanding of perspective, which obviously, Roland, you do not have. Because right there, that's not just movement. That's not an effect that's moving left and right. That's volumetric evolution of the cloud you're looking at right there. Let me repeat it together. Volumetric evolution of the cloud. That's not an effect. That's not movement. That's not static clouds. That is very, very clearly moving. There's no disputing it and there's no debating it. Now, what happened for people like Roland here, and I'm glad you came in, Roland, to embarrass yourself. You co-opted your opinion from something you saw on the internet. And people do this all the time. They co-opt their opinion because they see some retard on the internet go, it's static clouds. The clouds aren't moving. And then your stupid mind goes, yeah, dude, the clouds aren't moving. Dude, that person's right. I'm going to repeat that like an idiot. And you didn't even once even think critically for even a brief moment. You had no internal monologue in your head at all. You just immediately adopted their belief as your own without even thinking about it. This is the reason why stupid people think the videos are fake. Because stupid people can't think for themselves. Because they're just literally letting some other people do their thinking for them. There are no static clouds in this. And once again, in case you're still slow, that's Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery. Repeat it into your head until it sticks. It's Gorgon Air Force Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery. Nobody faked it. Nobody even could fake it. Nobody could fake it in a million years. Nobody even knew what Gorgon stare was. Okay? So when you say stupid shit like it's static clouds, I'll go ahead and address the cloud images were planted on the internet. We have the date because the API is publicly accessible. The API of the website when the photos were planted on the internet was October 25th, 2014. It was my birthday. That is 5 months after the videos were already online. You guys know how dates work, right? May comes before October. May 19th versus October 25th. Which one comes first? Oh, May 19th comes first. The photos were on the internet after the videos were already online. This is not a debate. It's a 100% fact. Not only did we check the API of the website, we also checked the archives of the Wayback Machine. The photos don't exist. Not only did we check that, we also checked torrents. We went to third-party torrents that nobody could have manipulated. And we looked for these cloud photos that were alleged to be on the internet before the videos. You know how many cloud photos we found in the torrents? None. They don't exist. They don't exist. So let me just be clear. This is a fact, not an opinion, a fact. The cloud photos people have been falsely claiming were used to make the videos post-date the videos in every single source they can be found. Did that sink in? I'm going to be silent for a minute so that sinks in. Okay, back to the task at hand. I mean, the problem is just so many stupid people on this planet, chat, and everybody wants me to be nice to them. They're like, Ashton, you have to be nice to Roland. He's just a dumb guy looking for the truth. No, I don't have to be nice to him, and I'm not going to be. You are the type of people who need to have your mind broken. The type of egotistical retards that don't know anything and think I'm lying, think that I'm grifting to you. You deserve to have your mind broken. You deserve to have your life ruined because that's what you're trying to do to me. So turnabout is fair play. So don't you dare ever ask me to be nice to you. Don't you dare ask me for grace. Don't you dare ask me for mercy later yet either. None of these things. I will remember. Okay. Back to the source at hand. So here's the second video. Second video comes out June 5th. So this video was now releases a timeline. We now have a timeline. When we look at this, we're like, wait, there's a second video and it got leaked later on after the first one. So, okay, guys, if this is a hoax, this is a very elaborate hoax now. We released one video and released a second video at a different time, published June 12th, received June 5th. So first video's on the internet, nothing happens. Second video is now leaked on the internet. Now we're not looking at Gorgon stare anymore. Now we're looking at a very close-up video in a color FLIR, which nobody has seen. Still to this day in 2025, 0 color FLIR videos have ever been released to the public. None, not even one. So again, what, somebody is faking footage that the public doesn't even know exists? Somebody's faking a color FLIR video that the world doesn't even think exists. Okay, let's keep going. Why the dates matter? Because how quickly was this going to be able to be produced? Now, who is Regicide Anon? Look at Regicide Anon's Twitter account, guys. Regicide Anon on Twitter is saying alternate angle just received. This is June 13th. This is the day after he says he received the video, or actually 1 week after and 1 day after he published the follow-up video. So presumably that was a link to the follow-up video. And then look at this. His first tweet was 3 days after he published the video. May 19th, the video is published. May 22nd. Hello, Twitter, my first tweet. Same day. Please spread this video before it's pulled. MH370 is tagged. So if this was somehow a hoax, then Regicide Anon would have to be in on the hoax. Regicide Anon would have to be in on the hoax because there he is connecting the videos to the missing plane right there. And it is the missing plane. So there's basically no way. I mean, how would these videos be fake? Now you supposedly have the hoaxer. If you think the videos are fake, Regicide Anon is your guy. There he is. And yet nobody has claimed Regicide Anon's done it because there's zero evidence Regicide Anon was behind this. There's not even speculation that he's behind this. And those videos aren't something that some random amateur is going to pull off. You have to be extremely highly skilled at a bare minimum. So the videos were re-uploaded on 2 different channels. Okay, 2023 videos go viral. This is a little bit incorrect. It is correct that in January 2023, the videos did get posted. They did not get serious attention, though. In January of 2023, the videos got posted and they were downvoted to basically 0. Now, retroactively, people seem to have upvoted it because it got a lot more attention in August. But in January, the videos were still ignored. It wasn't until August 7th, 2023, when the videos were posted again on Reddit and all hell broke loose. Between August 7th and August 19th of 2023, the only thing anybody was talking about on the UFO subreddit was the MH370 videos. And it wasn't until August 19th when Mick West stepped in, along with an anonymous Icy Slide account that still to this day won't reveal their true identity. When they pushed the fake VFX debunk, they literally got the videos banned from Reddit, banned from the UFO subreddit. Nobody was allowed to talk about them unless it was in a mega thread. And then soon after that, they deleted the mega thread and they didn't let anybody talk about the videos anymore because they were distracting people from what? What exactly has the UFO subreddit done in the last 2 years since the MH370 videos? Absolutely nothing. They've done absolutely nothing. They've revealed absolutely nothing in 2 years. But people were not allowed to talk about the most important videos in the history of the world. Reddit is controlled by the same people that are making the stupid Age of Disclosure documentary. It's the same leftist nut jobs and people that are controlled by the feds that control that website. And I've said this in the past, but it's been a long time. I am going to bring Reddit down over this. If you were or are a moderator of the UFO subreddit, your life is over. Your life is over. One of them specifically, I have all their information about. One of the moderators who was somebody who was like trying to feed me information or do some weird shit. And it turned out they were also censoring the videos the whole time. I found out. Again, guys, don't ask me for mercy or grace later. These people were daring me to bring them down. You're cooked, buddy. You're cooked. And you're not anonymous behind your Reddit accounts. You're not anonymous. In fact, the moment that the videos are admitted to be real, I'm going to demand investigations and the doxing of every single person who was trying to anonymously hide these videos. TJ Powell, Tony Adams, these Redditors who've literally spent every waking moment in the last 2 years trying to make these videos go away. You are going to get doxed publicly. Your real name, your identity is going to be publicly known. I'm going to make sure that the federal government comes after you to dox you to everybody. And in addition to just letting the people come after you. And I understand people are upset about that. I don't care. I absolutely do not care, even in the slightest bit. And if you think that it's a crime, then go ahead and sue me. Go ahead and try to get the government to come after me. I'm sorry, but you getting doxxed is not a crime. And you should have thought about that before you started attacking me, before you decided to dedicate your whole life to trying to convince people those videos were fake. That was on you. That was a decision that you made. You made that decision. Okay, now going back to this. So videos went viral on UFOs. And here was the next big thing that came up. Next big thing was the citric session. I haven't spoken about this in a while. The mouse. This was actually a funny story. I'm going to tell you the real story of what happened. The mouse cursor was not the same frame rate as the background that was updated in the background. And when people found out right away, wow, this is actually a citric session. Somebody's logged into a citric session going on. This is why I thought that they were potentially at home on a laptop, but the citric session would still be happening even in the skiff. The citric session is still going to occur in the skiff. So this citric session was really, this is the smoking gun. I don't know how people thought the videos were fake after this. Nobody could even have imagined in a million years you could fake a citric session into your video, right? I just told you they would have needed to make this ultra high resolution collage just to begin with. Now they're faking a citric session over the top of it. Not possible. The videos are obviously real, super obviously real at this point. And of course, nobody pays attention to this. The debunkers always just ignore this fact. And again, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. It's a fact. It's 100% consistent with a citric session. 100%. They have no counter for it whatsoever. And what happened with this was, what am I trying to remember here? This was one of the big clues that helped us to realize that Edward Lin was potentially connected to this. It had to be somebody who had access to this footage. Somebody had access to the citric session capabilities. Oh, crap. I forgot that. I was going to say something significant here, but I'm losing my train of thought. Let me just see here. Yeah. So the other thing is the frame rate. So the thing about the frame rate, too, is the other big giveaway, is that the background was only 6 frames per second. So the background 6 frames per second, but we have like the coordinates are updated in 24 frames per second, or maybe 30 frames per second. I can't remember the exact number here. But this discrepancy indicated that this was this major detail that is something now. This is definitely a computer that somebody's logged into, and they're recording this on their computer here. So now we still think this video is fake. I mean, this is clearly wide area motion imagery at this point. Yeah. So at that point, if it's a hoax, it's way too complex. Now, here's some quotes. I'm just going to read these quotes because there were actually a lot, like contrary to the narrative that's being formed that, oh, everybody knew these videos were fake. There were a lot of people making comments going, I'm an expert VFX artist of 20 years. I don't know how anybody made this. I couldn't even begin to make this. And then you had a bunch of people who aren't really VFX experts. That have never been VFX experts who are just pretending on Reddit, because that's what they do. They all pretend to be everything that there is out there. To me, this is way too complex to have ever been thought of by a hoaxer. If this is fake, then whoever made this is operating on a level most of us never see. The frame rate seems to be coherent between both videos. So the frame rate difference was also confirmed between 2 different versions of the videos that were uploaded on the internet. Now, the 6 frames per second was 100% consistent with Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery. Early on, when they were making Whammy, they had relatively low frame rates. And then they had to enhance it, increment 2. Presumably, they had increments after that aren't public at this point. Okay. So we're looking at this remote terminal session now, and then there are coordinates in the videos. Now here is just, I mean, what are people talking about? Now I do need to point out this location in the coordinates here is not correct. I know because I've literally memorized the real location, which is actually just a little bit further up here. So this red dot is off by a couple islands. It's actually even more directly aligned with the path of the plane than what that red dot shows. That red dot is actually close to where Catherine T's boat was. There was a real person on a boat who saw the plane. Where the plane is in the coordinates is just a little bit higher up between these next islands further up here. Okay. And then we see these coordinates right down here. We can see the coordinates. The coordinates are very clear. We can tell it says NROL 22, and we can tell the coordinates that are the Nicobar Islands. This is a literal direct shot from the last spot of the MH370. Now, people are still struggling with this. Like, I don't know. This is what I was telling one of the investigators. Like, what more do you want, man? What more do you want? We've got 2 videos that are clearly leaked from a skiff. I've identified one accurately as Gorgon stare wide area motion imagery. There's coordinates in it. There's a relay satellite designation, NROL 22. That's the relay satellite the drone is talking to. And if you draw a straight line draw a straight line from the last known location and path of MH370, it goes straight through these coordinates. You're still not convinced? That's where I just say, look, I think we've hit a point where we're just broaching something that is just too hard for people to accept as real, even though it was just overwhelming, absolutely overwhelming at this point. So NROL 22 is USA 184, and this is where I was wrong about USA 229. We had previously thought that Gorgon Stair was taken by satellite, checked every single satellite, and craziest part, this satellite pair, it's two satellites. There's two satellites that fly right next to each other in the same path. Sister satellites. And I thought that has got to be it. I mean, it's in the right location at the right time. It's right over the Nicobar Islands. You're like, oh, well, there you go. But I was wrong. I was wrong. It turns out it's a drone. It's just coincidence that these satellites were right there in the right spot. Or maybe they were being used for a different purpose. Maybe they were related, and we just have no idea. This is also wrong. The drone is not an MQ-1L Predator. The drone is an MQ-9 Reaper. I mean, I don't know for a fact. I suppose it could be a different drone. But when I talked to my source that worked at China Lake, what they told me was that the MQ-9 Reaper drone's wings are like 10 feet wider. So you could probably tell a wingspan difference of 10 feet. And the pod location is very close to the nose of to the hull of the drone. So when we're looking at this, and looks like it's inverted here. When we're looking at this inverted image right here, we can see the nose of the drone very clearly because of the proximity of hard point number 5 next to the fuselage or whatever you're going to call it, the hull. Also, we can see this heat signature. I mean, you guys think they faked a weird heat signature of where the top flips open of the drone and there's like a bunch of computer parts right there? You think they faked that little heat signature like that? It's asking a lot. Now, this, interestingly enough, they're showing the Gorgon Stair. This is Gorgon Stair. That is the drone that is flying above MH370. That's not the one that's doing the blue recording. But we're looking at, if you Google Gorgon Stair, you will find these MQ-9 Reaper drones with these pods underneath each wing. That was Gorgon Stair Increment 2. That's literally the exact asset that is recording MH370. Right there, you're looking at it. It's not the one that's horizontal. The horizontal blue video is a completely different recording asset. Trust me, I looked at this for a long time to try to figure this stuff out. We're looking at Gorgon Stair from above, and horizontally, it's most likely a Lightning G4 pod. The zap illuminates the clouds. This was another thing that was found on Reddit. My favorite story about this is that the guy that found this detail was a metabunk debunker. And even after he found this detail that showed that we're looking at three-dimensional scene, that's what this proves. Again, not an opinion. This proves we're looking at a three-dimensional scene. Whether or not you believe the videos are fake or real, that's not what I'm arguing here. What I'm arguing here is that you can see backlighting and you can see lighting where things in the foreground are not lit up. This proves, not an opinion, proves we're looking at a three-dimensional scene. If it was a two-dimensional scene, the lighting would not be like this. That's what that means. So now we've proven that the scene is three-dimensional, which is not a surprise because we have two videos from two completely different angles. So you need a three-dimensional scene to do that as well. Because otherwise it's impossible to make them sync up and be perfectly in sync. So what this means, and this is the thing the debunkers really hate, you had to have made a three-dimensional replication. Your VFX would have to be 3D. You know how much harder 3D rendering is than two-dimensional? A lot harder. As in, it's so difficult that just to render a single frame in 2014 using modern hardware took like 15 minutes. You get that? To render a single frame. So to render those videos in 3D would have taken literally weeks to render those videos in 3D. And we already have an extremely short window of time. So my favorite part is how the debunker that found this even though he found proof that the videos were real. This is, you could argue this is proof the videos are real. Still thought the videos were fake for no logical reasons whatsoever. Now, if that wasn't enough, this is one that I found actually, or let's say MH370X found this one. The orb literally displaces the smoke. I remember there was one person on social media arguing, if that was real, the contrails would get displaced by the smoke, by the orbs. It does in one revolution. It literally does. You can see it happen, and you can see accurate fluid dynamics. So again, can you imagine trying to fake that detail of the orb going through the smoke and displacing the smoke, just like if you were running through smoke? That's not something that ever gets faked. They don't even fake that in the movies. That's so difficult to fake. So that's just one more detail that, you know, pretty much impossible to fake some of these details. This one was very controversial. The orb displacing the cloud. The orb that comes up through the water. I think this is the one that goes through the water. This is either the first or second orb. I can't remember. Maybe this is the first orb. It seems to punch a hole in the cloud, like before it gets there, which is interesting because if it's using its X-ray beams as propulsion, then that could be part of the reason why. But if I'm right about what I said earlier and it's not using this forward-facing beam, maybe this is just an artifact. People argued over if this was an artifact or not in detail. I'm not really convinced either way. We don't really need it, and that's why I don't really talk about this detail very much. Okay, the clouds. People saying that the clouds were static. Obviously, that was bullshit. Several people proved that the clouds were moving and evolving because, of course, one of the first things people said was, oh, the clouds aren't moving, right? I don't know what people were thinking. And that was a weird narrative. Like, the people that would say the clouds aren't moving, have you ever, like, been outside before? I actually have to wonder that because I would go outside on basically any day and look up at the clouds, and they never, ever, ever look like they're moving unless it's an extremely windy day. So much so that I literally took a video of for 12 seconds, 12-second video looking up at the clouds, and I posted it on the internet. And you know what the same debunkers did? They go, if you compare the first and last frame, you can see the cloud movement. And I said, yeah, we can too. And these are only like 5 seconds long. Each of these frames is only 5 to 8 seconds. It's not even 10 seconds long. So if you don't understand, if you think the clouds aren't moving, then A, you don't understand just like basic perspective, but also you don't understand whammy. Whammy actually has parallax correction because what's happening is that the drone is circling above, taking photos, and they're using those photos to render a realistic environment with those photos. The problem is the photos don't all fit together perfectly because the drone's moving around up here. So they have to take some liberties and have some like corrections in order to make it all look good. So some people that argue like, is this CGI? Technically, it is CGI. If we're being very, very technical, this is computer generated from real photos, but humans aren't doing it. It's a computer system called Gorgon Stare Wide Area Motion Imagery, and Sierra Nevada Corporation is the integrator. So there you go. Okay, and then there's a few others where people can see, you can't quite see it as much, but you can see a little bit of the like the bob of the cloud a little bit here in these scenes. And if they were static photos, there should be no movement whatsoever. There should be zero movement. If these were static photos, you should be able to literally overlap them, and they should be 100% right over the top of one another. No excuse for them not to be that case, right? Because you think that it's a very cheap VFX, right? Now, the orbs aren't just spinning. Oh, and I forgot to mention this earlier on. This is another good one. The orbs aren't just spinning around the plane. The axis of the orb is also spinning. And now we know why this is as well. The orbs are spinning because they are stabilizing the plasma. One of the ways that you stabilize the instabilities in the plasmas, axial spin. David Kirkley just mentioned this on Lex Friedman. Just like with the top, spin the top fast enough and it'll just stay upright until it slows down and then it wobbles and falls over. Same concept with the orbs. And I'll take it one step further. There's a couple instances in the videos where it looks like the heat signature like flips. I think there might be a dynamo effect happening inside the orbs. And I think that they're also reacting to one another, just like the Charles Chase video, where if this one moves this direction, this one also moves in sync. either the same direction or opposite direction, almost like they're entangled to one another. They essentially act like they're entangled even if they're not. Cumulus clouds. We can see the clouds in the videos are cumulus clouds. This indicates that they are low-level clouds. This indicates that the plane is flying super low. And this is another big, huge detail. If you're investigating, you're going, wait, this plane is really low? What does that mean? Well, it might mean that the plane is crashing into the ocean. It might mean that the plane's about to land in the ocean. Not sure. So these are clearly cumulus clouds that we're looking at in these videos. Very important because if we compare to the weather, some people have tried to say that the weather didn't have cumulus clouds. Those look like cumulus clouds to me, chat. Those look like cumulus clouds to me. So this is 8 a.m. So this time here isn't necessarily correct. We've got a better one. So I've got another one that shows low pressure clouds in that area. Just so that people don't say I'm a liar, I guess I'll just show it real quick. Hold up. I think this is it right here. Man, I was just sharing this a second ago, and now I don't see it on here. Okay, maybe I'm not going to share it. Never mind. I thought I was going to share it, but I don't see it on here. Okay. But anyway, so there is, other people did some checking, and while there definitely were not high altitude clouds, if you go look closely, you will see there's these low altitude clouds right in that area within about 15 minutes at around 1845 to 1900 UTC on March 7th, which is when the plane would have been in that location. This image right here, whoops. This image that I was just sharing here a second ago from this article, this is actually from, they're assuming that when the official narrative claims that the plane crashed because it ran out of fuel, which is quite like 5 hours different from when the plane was in the Nicobar Islands. Was it sucked in from behind? You can see the plane get pulled backwards. People made all these different graphics. This is one that I do have, which I will share, of the plane getting pulled backwards. And so this is what, I think this is my favorite version here that watch, where you can see the frame right beforehand. And when you look at the frame right after, you can see total internal reflection from the wormhole because it's reflecting all the light internally. You see this almost looks like the outline of the tail. Let me make this a little bigger. It almost looks like the outline of the tail of the plane, of the, what do they call it? The rudder or whatever the hell it's called. You can almost see it like sticking out of the back of the wormhole. Now, everybody assumed when they saw this, well, maybe it's getting pulled backwards. And actually, if you apply the right-hand rule to an electrical engineering to the orbs, the plane would be going backwards. So this is one of the first reasons why we started to think maybe this is a wormhole and maybe this plane is getting pulled backwards. And maybe this tells us the direction that the plane is being teleported. That's what that essentially told us. And there was this guy, Punjabi Batman. It was one of the first accounts I noticed where I started to wonder if he was a white hat, because he was pushing this idea of space-time manipulation way back early on Reddit when I had no idea what I was looking at here. I had no clue. I definitely wasn't thinking teleportation. I was just thinking, like, what is this? This makes no sense, right? And he was pushing some pretty interesting ideas about, like, well, we could test this from a physics standpoint. Maybe this is consistent with physics. Now, here's another big one, the turbulence. I mean, look at this. I'm going to make this full screen. You can see the turbulence of the plane when it goes underneath the contrails, the drone. When the drone goes underneath the contrails of MH370, or the smoke that's coming out of the back, right? The wake of the plane, let's just say, you can clearly see the turbulence increase. And this is before the person is zoomed in. When the person zooms in, the shaking of the camera increases even more. So again, this is not a detail in a hoax video. This is real life. It's real physics. You guys have been on a plane, right? You guys understand there's turbulence in the air and how turbulence makes things shake. There you go, right there. There it is. The thermal video is a perfect overlay of MH370. Sometimes people think that this is from the video. The plane you see in the background is a real picture of the plane here. And that's the thermal heat signature overlaid over the plane. Looks like a pretty close match to me, chat. This right here is the color FLIR. This is the camera. That's a Lightning G4 by Northrop Grumman. This also explains why the camera angle is the angle it is from the drone. Because this pod can circle around and move up and down like this. This is why you're seeing the wing of the plane. Most of the wings of the drones are not visible from the cameras. The reason why it's visible is because this pod can move around multiple different angles depending on the relative altitudes of the drone versus the plane. So again, that's why we're seeing the wing. There it is right there. Okay, let's see what else we got. Diego Garcia connection. Now, I don't know that MH370 is at Diego Garcia, but if I had to guess, that's where I would bet all my money, is that it either ended at Diego Garcia or in the water near Diego Garcia, because we never looked there. We're not allowed to look there, and it's a super secret military base. In fact, I would go so far as to say they were definitely monitoring the situation, the operation from Diego Garcia, and they might have even deployed the orbs from Diego Garcia. I mean, where's a better location to hide some orbs than Diego Garcia, right? Look at Diego Garcia. That's where you're going to hide some super magical orbs that can teleport airplanes. Nobody's ever allowed to go there. And why? Nobody will really say why, just because it's a secret military base. And Diego Garcia should have been able to track the plane. I just explained to you guys we have quantum radars that can detect submarines anywhere on planet Earth. And you think we can't see a Boeing 777 that has no countermeasures on it, no stealth capabilities? Our military bases are tracking planes for thousands of miles. They would have been able to track MH370 from the time it took off. They could have tracked it the whole way. And it was flying in the air. And you're telling me we didn't know where it was? When I watched the YouTube videos about it, people are like, he was avoiding radars. He was like zipping through, avoiding the radar. I'm like, dude, what do you think a radar is? These people think radar, I don't even know what they think radar is. Like, I think they just don't know what radar is. Radar is just electromagnetic signals bouncing off something. There's no such thing as avoiding radar. That's not how radar works. When Trump is talking about they can't detect our submarines, it's not because our submarines are avoiding radar. It's not how you would describe it. You would say the radar scatters off the submarine, so therefore they can't detect that there was something there. And these planes don't have that. They don't have that capability. If this plane gets hit by a radar, it's going to get seen in every scenario. Okay. Guys, I'm going to crash out, chat. Y'all making me crash out here after I said I wasn't going to crash out. So Sarah Bach and Philip Wood was on there, and Philip Wood had this photo that he posted on 4chan. I have been held hostage by unknown military personnel after my flight was hijacked, blindfolded. I worked for IBM, and I managed to hide my cell phone in my ass during the hijack. I've been separated from the rest of the passengers, and I am in a cell. My name is Philip Wood. I think I have been drugged as well. I cannot think clearly. I mean, Jesus, chat. Chat. If you ever see a message on the internet, if I disappear and there's a message on the internet that says, "Hi, I'm Ashton Forbes. I've been captured by military people. I've been drugged. I'm being held prisoner," you are obligated to go to the EXIF coordination. There's EXIF data in the photo. I post a photo on the internet. There's EXIF data in it. And in the EXIF data, there's coordinates. You are obligated to go to those coordinates just to see if I'm there. Let's just be safe. Let's just go check. I mean, you went through the effort to say you've been drugged, you've been captured by military people, you're being held prisoner, and you literally post a photo with coordinates in it. I think we should go check it out. Even if there's just a 1% chance it's real or a 0.1% chance. We got to go check it out. Guys, do you think they checked it out? Do you think they went to where the coordinates were? No. Literally coordinates of Diego Garcia military base. And by the way, it's a real black site. Diego Garcia literally has prisoner cells on it. And we just didn't go. We're like, nah, it's fine. The guy's just gone. Don't worry about it. And by the way, the plane is still missing today in 2025. And we still have not gone to check Diego Garcia to see if those people were there. chat. Okay. Oh, and I just want to add, the person that debunked that photo is Mick West, the same alien UFO debunker that everybody says is on the government payroll because he's super weird and he like is obsessed with debunking these claims. He also, for no reason, even though he's a UFO debunker, has no connection to MH370, he debunked this photo too. That's weird. And the weirdest part is his debunk was completely false. Everything that he posted in his debunk, that it was not consistent with the iPhone 5, it was all fake. Everything that Mick West said was wrong and fake. Again, that's a statement of fact. I found an alternative analysis that reviewed Mick West's analysis and shows that everything Mick West said, everything that he claimed about the photo not being consistent was all wrong. So why is there a guy, a mentally ill guy named Mick West, who's a libtard, who's just a complete retard? Why is he weirdly obsessed with debunking everybody's claims? And why is he lying about a missing person? A missing person. He made a fake debunk about somebody who could have been held in a prisoner somewhere in a cell and just happens to be covering for the United States government who's implicated in the disappearance of the plane. I've said this multiple times. There is nothing too bad that could happen to Mick West. The debunkers that are watching this, I want to make sure you send this to Mick West. Let Mick West know I have not forgotten about him. Mick West will go down as the worst human being to ever exist on the face of the earth for what he did. For what he did. He tried to cover up technology that the government was hiding. He tried to cover up a literal kidnapping case, at best, maybe murder, of MH370. He tried to cover that up for the government as well. And that's just what we know about. It's very likely Mick West has a closet full of skeletons. I will be advocating for the federal government to charge Mick West with seditious conspiracy for his attempt of covering up MH370, and for him to spend the rest of his life in prison, which is where Mick West belongs. Mick West is going to jail, and he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and I'm going to sue him for every single penny he has for the article that he wrote, the fake article that he wrote, trying to debunk the videos. I'm going to own the Skeptical Inquirer, and I'm going to own every single penny that Mick West made from Tony Hawk. Every single penny. And I'm going to give, I don't know, half of it to the families. Maybe all of it. We'll see. There you go. I haven't forgotten about you, Mick. Don't worry. Your time is coming, buddy. Your days of freedom, they are numbered, bud. They are numbered. Those videos are going to be confirmed to be Gorgon Stare Air Force motion, wide area motion imagery. The science is going to be proven to be real. Aneutronic fusion is going to be proven to be real. Teleportation and space-time manipulation are going to be proven to be real. And Mick West's life is going to be over. Mick West's life is going to be over. His best bet is if he just dies before that happens. He's going to be waiting out the clock like the engineers are too. Okay, let's keep going. Mysterious SOS. I give this absolutely no credit whatsoever. There was some kind of weird 2017 text message or weird translated message about danger. I ignore that. The hydrophone thing. There was missing data from the hydrophones, but I found out that it supposedly was found later on. And the timing of the hydrophone data did not sync up with the videos at all. So I did research this. I did look into this. I even had a person reach out to me who was, I think, directly connected to this. There's a paper written about this. So yes, there was like 25 minutes missing. It's possible it's tied to like maybe the plane reappearing somewhere else, but there's no way to say for sure. So unfortunately, even though there was missing hydrophone data, we can't glean anything. The more important thing is that when they looked at the hydrophone data, there were multiple scientific papers written about the hydrophone data. There were 2 hydrophones. These are water-based objects that hear sound. They determined there were 2 hydrophones that would have 100% heard MH370 if it crashed into the South Indian Ocean. One at Diego Garcia and one off the coast of Australia. Both of these hydrophones were easily in range that would have heard a Boeing 777 crash into the water. Boom. That would have released a huge shockwave that's fundamentally equivalent to an earthquake of about 2 to 3.0, depending on how much energy would have been released at the speed of the plane. Did any of the hydrophones have any signals that could have been MH370? No. There was only one candidate signal found on one hydrophone, and it was almost 1 hour after the plane would have already run out of fuel. Those are, again, the facts. Those are the facts. You come to your own opinion. If MH370 crashed into the ocean, how come none of the hydrophones heard it? The answer that the investigators will try to tell you is, oh, well, the pilot ran out of fuel, then just perfectly landed the plane on the water, and then it just sank in one piece. Yeah, that didn't happen. That didn't happen, but you can believe whatever you need to believe. Okay, this one's another interesting one. This is recent, so I know this article is recent. Cargo ship was sent to Diego Garcia on March 31st. Empty cargo ship gets sent to Diego Garcia. Did they use this to dispose of the plane? Because if the plane landed at Diego Garcia, they would have had to break it apart. They would have had to get rid of it somehow. So that makes some sense. I think that they would have probably tried to dispose it that way. Alternatively, they could have just sank it in the water by Diego Garcia, and nobody's ever going to find it because no one's allowed to go there. And I'm not sure, because we found debris in Africa. And the debris in Africa is from MH370. I think my story is the only story that can explain the debris in Africa. South Indian Ocean does not explain debris in Africa. The debris should have washed ashore in Australia. But instead, Africa. Africa is very close to Diego Garcia. So I'm going to go a little bit faster. Now, is it aliens or secret technology? This is Don Phillips right here. I think I have this clip, and I think we'll probably watch it because it's a pretty good clip. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Don Phillips from Lockheed Martin. I think he was former Lockheed Martin. And a lot of people have hit me up about Don Phillips.
We're looking up in the air, and I looked up in the air and saw these objects, lighted objects, moving at tremendous speeds. It's like what we would know as special effects today. And it was in the area slightly to the north and northwest of Mount Charleston. And Mount Charleston, by the way, is over, I think, just about 13,000 feet. So all of a sudden I says, wow, what an aerial show. I didn't think too much of it because it's not something that surprised me that they were doing these kind of acute maneuvers. But right at that instant, when I saw these things making acute angles and traveling, maybe I would estimate 3,000 to 4,000 miles per hour, and then immediately making a acute turn, I knew that they weren't ours. And I had a special background with the Skunk Works, Lockheed Aircraft, Advanced Development and Engineering, that said, these are not ours. And having been a pilot, I'm thinking, what kind of forces these, if there were people in these craft, what kind of forces their bodies are taking. Then I said, well, these have to be guided by some type of intelligent pilot, if you will, and being a pilot. And I thought, wow, how long will this go on? So,
okay. Oh wait, this is the part I wanted.
It went on apparently, from my point of view, for about another 90 seconds, and then all of a sudden they seemed to group from what would be hundreds of miles in the sky to the east or to the west, and they came into a circle, rotated in a circle, and then disappeared. And I thought, wow, what a show.
Wow. That's quite the story. Now, do I believe him when he says I worked at Skunk Works and therefore I know this isn't ours? No, not really. Not really. Because this is definitely at least partially ours. So the big thing about the MH370 videos, that is the reason why nobody will talk about them, the reason why the UFO community won't talk about them, is because it's not aliens. Because the way the cameras are recording, like, why is the drone out there? Why is the drone out there recording over the ocean like that? Why? What do you guys think? It's a covert operation. That's the only reason. The only other plausible reason is to say that we were trying to rescue the plane, which doesn't really hold up because the time frame is too short. You're not going to be able to get a distress signal, get your drones ready to record, and why would you bother? You would just send the orbs. You don't care about recording it. If it's a rescue operation, you don't care about recording it. Why would you care about that? You're just trying to rescue the plane. They're recording it because the whole thing's an operation. And what that means is those orbs aren't aliens. They're not from another dimension. They're not coming there to save the people. It means those orbs are a weapon that's being used on the plane. And that's what's so interesting when Don Phillips then mentions Lockheed Martin, and that he's looking at the testing facility, and he's watching things do right-hand turns, just like the orbs are doing. They're just moving in any axis they want. And what does he see? He sees them spin in a circle formation and then disappear. Space-time manipulation, just like the MH370 videos. So I think that for sure we had this technology for a long time. I think that we've had this technology for a long time, but where the jury is still out on whether or not we got it from aliens or if we figured it out ourselves. Now, enter Salvatore Cesar Pais. Hopefully that's his real name. I wonder if he changed his name. People say that his name has all these meanings. So he was the first person to really respond to me. Now we've spoken many times now, and I recommend checking out the most recent discussion and interview. I think it's the one where I've been the most comfortable talking to him. But he has all these patents that were approved by the Navy back in 2017. And he tells this story about these patents where he had to go through all this effort to get the patents approved. And he tells another story about how Jay Stratton, the guy who's literally in this new UFO documentary coming up, that he and Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff basically gate-kept Salvatore Pais and made sure that the Navy wasn't going to research this stuff any further, that it wouldn't go any further. And I asked him about it. I said, are they doing that because they already have it? That's the only conclusion I can come to. Why would you gatekeep somebody trying to make UFO fusion technology? Well, the reason is because you've already got it figured out. You don't want somebody else to do it. That makes it easier for it to leak out to the public. If somebody else is doing something and you're working on the secret technology, you don't want them to do it. So my opinion of Sal is that Sal is legit. I think he probably rubs people the wrong way, but so do I. I think Sal's 100% legit. And I think Sal works on programs where he's been exposed to these technologies. In fact, I would bet almost anything on it. I know he says he came up with these ideas on his own. That's not how science works. Science is a matter of learning and advancing and iterative improvement. So yes, even though they are his original ideas, I don't disagree with that these ideas are clearly inspired by all the science and technology that we've also been reviewing, which is why I think we're a good fit. So there's the patents there, guys. High frequency gravitational wave emitter, plasma compression fusion device, piezoelectric high temperature superconductor. I mean, all of these things are like, you add these up, and this is what the orbs are. This is obviously why Sal was interested in talking to me, because finally somebody else figures it out. Finally, somebody you can talk to that's like, they understand that you're not crazy. They understand these technologies really exist and aren't just science fiction. They aren't just on paper. They have working versions of these technologies, and they're not, and to be honest, they're pretty advanced. They're pretty advanced. You don't just go from making some plasma orbs to teleporting planes out of the sky. That's a pretty big jump in technology from plasma orbs that float around to now we're spinning them around and teleporting things. That's a big, big level of advancement. So here's patents, and the Navy even fought. The Navy fought for the patents to be approved. That to me tells a lot. Now, the fire on the plane. Now, this screenshot here is really good because you can see, this one's not perfect, but you can see a little bit. If you look very closely, the heat signatures are not aligned with the engine. The heat signatures are not aligned with the engine. What I want to say is that I'm not the only person that figured out that this heat signature is coming from the AC exhaust port under the plane. Hopefully they don't mind that I say this. They ask that I not say anything about their opinions, but another of the OG MH370 investigators, when I showed them the videos, I don't know if they even saw my analysis, they showed the exact same image that I've shared of the AC exhaust ports underneath the plane. And they said, that looks like it's coming from the AC exhaust ports. That's why it must be fake. And I said, no, that's why it's real. There's a fire inside that plane in the cargo bay, and it's not an out of control fire. It is a controlled burn inside that plane in the cargo bay, and the smoke is circulating through the air conditioning system. And when the air conditioning system heats up on a Boeing 777, it opens up these ports and it flushes the smoke through these ports underneath the plane. We're seeing the smoke come around, wrap around the hull of the plane on both sides. And it looks like contrails because of that, because of how it's wrapping around the hull of the plane. But that's not contrails. Contrails cannot form at low altitudes, only at high altitudes. That must be smoke. And again, this was another thing that people were leaning into this theory early on, but they didn't have the evidence to go along with it. So why the lithium-ion batteries? The lithium-ion battery. There were lithium-ion batteries on this plane. There was rumors that a secret package was put on board the plane as well. They probably just put the device, whatever they did, in with the batteries. They put this device in with the batteries. Maybe it looked like batteries. And then they detonate that device at the moment they want to detonate it, force the plane to turn around, and the smoke and the lithium could have the secondary purpose. Now, if we believe what Don Phillips just told us, then we might not need a payload on board the plane to make the plane teleport or to just annihilate it or whatever the hell's happening. My research, though, shows that lithium is also an aneutronic thermonuclear weapon fusion fuel. So it's very possible that the lithium batteries were used as a diversion to start a fire on the plane that couldn't be put out, and at a secondary purpose, that as it's burning, it doesn't even necessarily have to be as it's burning, but it could also be being used as the payload for a fusion bomb. And those plasma balls, they act as the electric detonators. So imagine Wile E. Coyote. You guys have seen the Coyote Roadrunner cartoons. Wile E. Coyote's always trying to blow up a bridge or whatever, right, with his TNT. That thing that he pushes down is called the pusher. You push down on the TNT thing, and then boom, the thing blows up. That's actually how nukes work as well. In nukes, how it works is that the A-bomb blows up, and the A-bomb is the pusher. The A-bomb is what pushes the fusion. But they got rid of the A-bomb. So the pusher is the fusion, it's the plasma orbs. The plasma orbs are the pusher, but they're an electric pusher as opposed to an A-bomb pusher. So those are the theories about what could be happening there. So lithium-ion battery. The other thing is, like, this is one thing. So I get the shout out here. We can see the air conditioning manifolds through the skin of the plane. Everybody kept wondering, why are there these blotchy spots on the plane? Well, the first one and the last one are the doors. You can see the door in the front. If you've been on an airplane, have you been on a plane? Hold on, I got the clip. Rick and Morty. People are like, there it is. Oh, video's too short. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, chat. Hold on. We're definitely gonna play this clip. Rick and Morty plane. Okay, so people are saying, like, oh, what are these splotches on the plane? We can see the doors on there. So have you been on a plane?
Have you been on a plane?
Yes. Yes, we have it. Have you been on a plane before? Well, it turns out that these images, these other splotches, are the air conditioning distribution manifolds. There's 6 of them. There are 6 distribution manifolds that are throughout the plane, throughout the cabin, and those distribute cold air conditioning throughout the plane. So why are we seeing those splotches? We're seeing those splotches because that's colder or hotter air, probably hotter air in this particular case, because of the smoke being distributed throughout the plane. So this is the one where I'm like, looking at this detail, like, you think somebody faked that level of detail? You think they faked thermal heat signature detail that's accurate to the real configuration of a Boeing 777, the real air conditioning ducts in the Boeing 777? Okay, and here you go. If you want proof, there it is right there. There's even this great thing. If you Google air conditioning Boeing 777, you find these great teacher videos. And it even shows, you can see the little tubes going up to each section of the plane right there. And the cockpit has its own. There's also another one. This is how I learned about how they flush the heat through the bottom of the plane. There's another video by these same people. So check out those videos if you want to know more about Boeing 777. The mystery cargo, as I mentioned, I already mentioned the mystery cargo. We're going to skip through some of that. Fire suppression bottle. You can see there is right here. You can see there's a serial number on this fire suppression bottle. The amount of gaslighting about this fire suppression bottle should not be ignored, because the reason why you have to gaslight people about this is an extremely unique looking bottle. And it's a perfect match to a Boeing 777 fire suppression bottle. It washes up in the Maldives, perfect location for it to wash up, like 2 weeks after the plane disappears. And so, of course, if you were to find this and we were to confirm this is from MH370 using that serial number we can literally see right there, then everybody would have said, oh, shit, it was a fire, obviously. I mean, we're finding fire suppression bottles. Of course, it must be a fire. So this is the reason why they had to, I think it was the Prime Minister, the Minister of Defense said, no, this has nothing to do with MH370. Of course it does, buddy. How many fire suppression bottles have washed ashore since then, anywhere in the world? None, ever. This doesn't happen. And it had to be empty. It had to be empty because it's not going to float if it's full. If it's full, it's going to sink to the bottom. If it's empty, then it's going to float. Crazy, chat. And this is the other crazy part. People are like, the debris didn't have any signs of burn marks on it. Yes, it did. There's 2 pieces of debris that have burn marks all over them. This one is covered in burn marks. I don't know how people look at this and they come to any other conclusion other than that's burn marks. The narrative that people try to gaslight you on this is they try to say that we're looking at, they literally try to say, I'm not even making this up. They try to say you're looking at resin. Resin? Resin from, like, what are we talking about? Weed pipes here? What do you mean resin? Resin from the ocean? Do the other pieces have this resin on them? No. Just this piece has resin on it. No, bro, that's burn marks. I know what burn marks look like. I can take a lighter and I can burn something and I can see what burn marks look like. So here's Catherine T. She was in that spot I was pointing out earlier. I actually spoke to Catherine T multiple times, texted with her, spoke to her, did an interview with her. She saw this plane, no doubt. She saw MH370. And the reason why they had to ignore her and not give her the spotlight is because it was on fire. She saw the plane glowing orange. And the glowing orange wasn't from the out of control fire. It was from the fire suppression devices leaking gas everywhere. And she sees it in the Nicobar Islands, like around the same time we think the plane's being zapped. So we have an eyewitness that sees the plane in the location or close to the location where we've got the coordinates. So here you go. And actually, this one is correct. So they actually do have the right coordinates here now. So the coordinates here, you can see are up here, and then you can see Catherine T's right there. So you can see the plane would just been going right past her. She would have been looking up, and she would have been seeing that plane right there. And do you know, when I talked to the other investigators, they all claim that she just like is seeing stuff. She was just seeing things that aren't real. What are you talking about, man? How are you going to dismiss a witness like this? She's in the right spot. There's no way she couldn't have seen the plane. You have the oil worker, Mike McKay. He loses his job from seeing the plane in the South China Sea. China Times report, plane was attempting an emergency landing and disintegrating. Here it is. The pilot of the passenger plane said the cabin was about to disintegrate and they had to make an emergency landing. The time of that communication, according to China Times, was within minutes of the MH370 videos. 1843 UTC. 2:43 a.m. is the time that comes along with that. So, what happened with the were the communications jammed, or did they just classify the communications? I would argue that they knew about the plane because they knew the plane was not hostile. If they know the plane's not hostile, they must have had communication with the plane. They just didn't release them. When I talk to the investigators, or when people mention this, they go, there were no SOS communications, no Mayday communications. Yeah, because we didn't get them released to us. That doesn't mean they don't exist. What if they're just classified because it was literally an operation they're trying to cover up? So again, this is where we have to use critical thinking. What do we know to be true versus what do we just assume to be true? Very important to understand the difference. This blobs on military radar, I don't think that had anything to do with the plane. Free-scale semiconductors, this is clearly the motivation. I don't think this patent application was the reason, but I think just generally microchip technology was the reason. And that is actually not a stretch anymore. I think that 10 years ago, this was a stretch. Is microchip technology. Why would we do this over microchip technology? Why do microchips even matter? But now, look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA had 95% market share in making microchips for China. Now they have 0% market share. You would say, oh, they must have gone bankrupt. No, they're actually one of the most high cap, high value companies in the entire United States. They're worth $5 trillion. They have more market cap than most countries on this planet have GDP. So why is that the case? Because we took them, because they are a strategic asset. They are a strategic asset for the United States. So to me, the motivation is clear. The motivation had to be the engineers that were flying to China, which would mean, if we're really speculating, that the engineers were actually probably a Chinese espionage operation, and the United States ran a counter espionage operation to ensure that the Chinese operation would not be successful. Gorgon Stare, here it is. It's Gorgon Stare. It's not actually satellite video. This is the most recent update. I think this was March to May of 2025. So this is only not even a year old information. Found out about Gorgon Stare. People had been yelling Gorgon Stare to me, and I'd been ignoring it because I thought they were talking about the other video. I thought they were talking about the color FLIR, and I was like, that's not Gorgon Stare. Gorgon Stare is from above. And then finally, it should have come to me way sooner. I was like, wait a minute, isn't the plane flying really low? I was like, is it possible that there's another drone above the plane recording down? Because that drone has to be relatively low also. And I had AI do the math. I said, what would be the altitude of a drone? I gave it a perspective of the video. And I said, what would the altitude of the drone be, assuming that this video is legit? And it said 20,000 feet. That is well within the operational parameters of an MQ-9 Reaper drone from above. So that was the big break that led to this, in addition to some research I did on Whammy. So then we find Sierra Nevada Corporation. Sierra Nevada Corporation literally deleted, there it is right there, screenshots, deleted their website on Gorgon Stare when I exposed them. They deleted it so fast that the hyperlinks were still on their website. They couldn't even delete it fast enough. Chat, that not suspicious? Is that not suspicious? When a company gets exposed as having been directly implicated in disappearance of a missing airliner, and then they immediately start deleting the evidence from their website, it's called looking really guilty. Called looking really, really guilty, guys. Okay. And then here you go. The resulting imagery has the appearance of a moving satellite, like Google Earth, but alive. And I can tell this is one of my own screenshots here because it's got my terrible highlighting capability, highlighting that I do. But there you go. People were wondering. That guy in the chat earlier, Piggy in the chat, was saying, quiet, Piggy. Quiet, you, Piggy. He was saying, why are the clouds static? Why are the clouds not moving? Wide area motion imagery is meant to look like satellite video. In fact, it's basically supposed to look like Google Earth. That's the whole point of it. And yes, it is computer generated, but it uses real photos to generate that. It does what a human can't do. And then the leaker, Lieutenant Commander Edward C. Lynn. This is the guy, chat. VPU2 Wizards. Lawyer said that the evidence is available on the internet. Signals intelligence. His last deployment perfectly overlaps with MH370. He was reassigned right after MH370. His lawyer said the investigation began on April 2nd, 2014, which is less than a month after the plane disappeared. I mean, Chad, if this was a movie, If this was a movie, nobody would doubt that Edward Lynn. Everyone would be like, this is too obvious. Like, write the story better. It was obviously Edward Lynn the whole time. It's so obvious that he's the guy. And the best part is, like, even if you were to say, well, he's not the guy, there is nobody else that's even close to checking as many boxes as Edward Lynn is to be the video leaker. And then the last bit is, if he wasn't the guy, he would have sued me. He would have sued me, chat. I've been sitting here defaming him every day if he's not the guy. And I call him up to get a response. I say, hey, Edward Lynn, if you're not the guy, please tell me. And he won't return phone calls. And then I go, okay, I'll call his lawyer then. So I start blowing up his lawyer, and I have his phone number. He turns his phone off. He changes his phone number. Is that what you do when you're not the person, you're not implicated in the thing that the person's saying? If he wasn't the guy, he would be reaching out to me trying to correct the record so that I stop sharing his name. Instead, he literally, this is not even fake, he changed his name legally. Edward Lynn legally changed his name right after I started exposing him. So what more do you need? So he goes to prison for 6 years, and people wonder, well, Edward Lynn signed a plea deal. He's still talking about his time in the Navy as if he's not persona non grata, that he's still accepted in the military community. Bro, if you leaked weapons secrets, you should never be brought back into the community. So why is he seemingly in good graces with the community? Because he's playing ball. Because he signed the deal. He signed the deal, and so they're happy for him to be in good graces because he's not telling on them. People are implicated in this, and Edward Lynn isn't saying anything. So people wonder, why have they not killed Edward Lynn? Because he has information that could send people to prison. Edward Lynn knows those videos are real, and as long as he shuts the hell up about it, everybody's safe. In fact, nobody even knew that that's what Edward Lynn leaked. I spoke to people that worked with Edward Lynn and the VPU2 Wizards, worked with him. And they thought he was just like, they thought it was like prostitutes. I'm like, dude, does that make sense? Do people go to prison for 9 years because they had some pillow talk with a prostitute? No one would care about that. How would you ever prove that? It's absurd. So then we've got the debunks, the cloud photo debunk. I mean, the first debunk was the VFX zap. That one never matched. I don't even know how or why people thought this matched. I guess because they found something that was close enough, and then people just thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's close enough. We're good here, right? That's kind of what people were thinking. Did I move my video? Where are my debunk videos? Here it is. But if you just overlay it, you can tell right away. I mean, that's not a match. That's the stock effect overlaid. So it's like, and the goalposts just keep moving. Like, so you're like, okay, wait, but you're like, you showed me literally just this one frame right here. It's like, you showed me this one frame and said it's a perfect match, but I'm looking at the frame right now with my eyes, and I can tell it's not a match. I can tell the middle is not even remotely close, and the edges don't match and don't line up either. And then they go, well, somebody just edited it. And you're like, okay, well, what edits did they do? And they're like, well, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you what edits it. What do you mean you can't tell me what edits? You're the one telling me it's a perfect match. Now it's not a perfect match. Now none of it really matches anymore, but you're telling me they just modified it to make it match. Okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. They modified it to make it match. So now we can address this frame here. Even though it doesn't match, let's just say that it is. Okay, what about this frame? Okay, what about this frame here? This one, we can all agree this one clearly doesn't match. It's not even aligned. There's nothing even remotely aligned about this. And this is where debunkers just went completely off the rails. So instead of just admitting that it doesn't match, they go, somebody took the stock effect, they broke up every single frame of the stock effect, and they started mix and matching the frames and independently modifying each individual frame. Oh, and by the way, the number of frames doesn't even match either. There's 7 frames in the stock effect, but there's only 4 frames in the actual video of the zap. How do we address that? Crickets. So the stock effect debunk fell apart on his face. And the funniest part is that stock effect, that exact stock effect, shockwave.move, has been used in like a half dozen major productions. Anchorman, Starship Troopers, Eastbound and Down. There was an Attack on Titan advertisement that used it. They all use that stock effect. Do you know what that stock effect looks like in all the places used? Exactly like the stock effect. They took the full stock effect in every single one of those instances and just played the full stock effect without modification. So the thing that debunkers are claiming that someone did to the MH370, that they changed the frame around and they moved and they made it match somehow that we can't tell you, that's actually never been done for that stock effect ever. This is, again, a fact, not an opinion. That's never been done for that stock effect ever, not even in major motion movies like Anchorman. They literally just take the stock effect, they put it in his eyes, and you can see the full stock effect go off. In the MH370 videos, you can't even recognize the effect because it doesn't in there and it doesn't match. Crazy, chat. Okay. I already addressed the cloud photo thing, but just to reiterate, the cloud photos were uploaded on the internet October 25th. Now, the last thing I'll say about this stock effect here, too, is that the debunkers were claiming that they had like 4 different claims for this. Like, they finally organized around this shockwave. But before the shockwave, they were 100% sure it was a supernova that somebody put in there. And then after the supernova thing fell apart, they were 100% sure it was an ink blot, that somebody took an ink blot and they put an ink blot effect in there. And then after all of those failed, then they went with the shockwave argument. And all the arguments were all based on the same flawed kind of reasoning. None of them were actually worked, right? The cloud photo one was the scary one because they must have planted wide area motion imagery cloud images on the internet after the fact that videos came out. And that's the part where people will say, oh, you're being conspiratorial. To me, that's the minimum they would be willing to do. That's the minimum I would do. My video leaks on the internet. I don't want anyone to know it's real. Then you just leak some other evidence and make it look like it was fabricated. Perfect. Especially if you already have the source material. You've already got the source photos. Just there, put them on the internet. Be like, oh, okay, here you go. It wasn't Gorgon Stare that made this. It was some random kid in his basement that somehow knew about Gorgon Stare wide area motion imagery. So the funny part about this is that not only are the videos going to be proven to be real, we're actually going to be able to prove that they tried to cover them up too. We'll actually be able to prove that somebody, I don't know who, I would speculate the intelligence community, took the Gorgon Stare imagery, the photos that the Gorgon Stare produces when it's looking down, and they took a few of those photos, like 4 of those photos, and they put them on the internet, on a website, so that it would seem like they were part of a different set of photos. They didn't do a very good job of it. There's a lot of tells that prove that wasn't the case. So that's probably the hardest part for people to accept. Okay. One other fun fact. I think we're going to close down here in a minute. I didn't realize we were going so long. The location where this stock effect was found the stock effect literally didn't exist on the internet. The stock effect didn't actually exist on the internet anywhere where it could be downloaded. The location that it was found was some like Internet Archive user upload folder where this account called Wave Rider 3000 uploaded it. And the funny part was we caught this person manipulating the image. They had a collage that came along with this. And in the collage, this user took the real zap of MH370 and they put it in the collage. They pasted over a pre-existing box that had Duke Nukem or whatever stuff in it. And they put the MH370 thing in there. And the only purpose to do that is so that if somebody looked at that, they would go, oh, this is clearly a stock effect from this package because there's an image of it in this collage. This is true, by the way. I actually exposed this in real time like a year ago because I saw it and I was like, wait a minute. Why did someone put the stock effect or why did someone put the MH370 zap into this collage to make it look like it's part of this stock effect? And you know what happened? I did a live stream about it. You can still find the live stream about it from a year ago. The very next day, I went back to double check. It had been reverted back to its original state. You could now see the Duke Nukem thing there instead of the zap. What did that mean? That meant that Wave Rider 3000 was very likely an intelligence asset, very likely government asset that planted this on there. At a minimum, they're a debunker. Because if this person was on my side, they would have come to me and they would have said, hey, I'm this guy. I think these videos are real. I happen to be the guy that uploaded this stock effect, blah, blah, blah. Instead, when they got caught in real time manipulating the collage with the stock effect, where they uploaded the stock effect, this person uploaded it, they went and changed it. The same day that they got caught, right after my live stream, they went in there and they modified it. And we caught them in real time. We have all the logs that prove it. How nuts is that? So when people wonder, do I think that there are people trying to cover up these videos? There absolutely are people trying to cover up the MH370 videos. And they will do literally anything to make you believe those videos are fake. They will plant evidence on the internet. They will fabricate evidence. They will do whatever they need to do. Somebody tried to pretend to be the hoaxer of the videos, and they didn't get exposed until the website owner, where the supposed cloud pictures were from, outed the person who was pretending to be the hoaxer. Said that, nope, here are the DMs. This person literally was just fabricated the story from the beginning. So there's some sketchy stuff going on, guys. And here's the cloud photos. Funny part about these cloud photos, Ariel's 0028 doesn't have any of Jonas's photos in it. Doesn't have any of the Japan photos in it, except for supposedly these cloud pictures and one picture that has Mount Fuji in it. This folder was empty until October 25th, 2014. This Ariel 0028 was empty. And Jonas's Japan photos, we have archive that shows they were in Ariel 0027, not Ariel 0028. So they're in a completely different category. They're in a different folder structure, even though the story we're being told is that this guy took these photos in Japan, even though there's nothing in any of the photos with the clouds in them that indicate they're from Japan. The photo that has Mount Fuji in it doesn't have any of the cloud photos in it. So the only photo that has Mount Fuji in it, there's no matching clouds. All the other matching clouds come from photos that have no distinguishable marks on them. Of course they don't, because it's from the Nicobar Islands over the ocean. Of course it is. So there you go. That's pretty elaborate, though. Pretty elaborate to plant those. And just in case you need the absolute proof, again, not opinions, I deal in facts. This top indicator is what the debunkers showed people. And it says right here, Ariel 0028, free background texture. Says May 25th, 2012. And so you would go, oh, that proves that the cloud photos were on the internet before the MH370 videos. That proves the videos must be fake. But these people don't know how databases work. That is only the date for the folder itself, not the contents. You actually scroll down and you can find when the contents were uploaded to that folder. This is, again, this is from the API of textures.com. This isn't me that created this evidence. We pulled it directly from the website. We didn't manipulate it. If anybody manipulated this, the website owner did. In fact, as far as I know, there's no way to manipulate data files like this without hacking into the database. And right here it says created at the image. This is the first image, ID 75560. This is the actual, you can see the gallery. You can see the URL of the thumbnail. This is the image itself, the cloud image. October 25th, 10/25/2014. There's even a timestamp. And do you know why the timestamp is important? Because when database migrations happen, all of the timestamps for all of the data elements is the same. Are all of the timestamps the same for the different photos? No, they're actually off by a little bit, as if they were manually uploaded. As if they were manually uploaded to the database, not indicating a database migration. So this right here is absolutely created at date is the very first time this photo was put into that folder. Creation dates never change in databases. You're learning about databases today, chat. Creation dates never change. The only date that updates is something called the update date, which you can see right below that. The update date, you can see that this photo was updated in 2023. So why did somebody update this photo in 2023 as well? Just pointing that out. So there's your absolute proof. And here's the full upload dates of all of the photos. I believe one of these wasn't even used. One of these is the Mount Fuji picture. There's 5 total pictures. Notice the upload date on them is not uniform. 4/58/20, 4/58/44, 4/59/08, 4/59/25, 4/59/38. That right there is proof that this was not a database migration. Those all indicate a manual intervention with the database. I know this because I've worked in databases for 20 years. I can write SQL. I literally look up databases like this every single day at my job. And our database is a massive database, probably about 1,000 times bigger than this database. And when we do database migrations, you can see the date and times match up 100%. They're perfectly aligned because that's how automations work. So I do want to point that out. I do have inside information on this particular thing. Now, where does this leave us? I already kind of listed out what I think happened to the plane. One last thing I want to mention tonight is this idea of, could this have been a time attack from the future? Now, this seems crazy as shit. No, I don't really think this is the case. I think this is just our technology. But the theory about aliens that to me is rising the most is the future human hypothesis. Why? Because when you're dealing with space-time manipulation, you're dealing with time manipulation. And I have been speculating that we cannot go back to the past. But what if I'm wrong? What if we can do retrocausality now or ever in the future? If that's the case, then we would expect to be seeing people sending messages back to us from the future to the past. So what if I'm the person? This is just hypothetical, of course. What if I'm the person that zapped MH370? What if in the future I get access to a time travel machine, space-time manipulation, and I send the orbs back in time to zap the plane? I don't necessarily give this theory any credence, but I do think it's just interesting to think about as a thought experiment, because that's what would have to happen in a closed time-like loop. Like, let's say somebody changed the past. Well, somebody has to go to the future, or in the future, somebody has to go to the past and do that again. And that has to continue to happen forever. So I just think that's kind of an interesting theory. But at the end of the day, what if we are the aliens? If you look at this planet, everybody on this planet, what sticks out the most? What sticks out the most? Of all the different species on this planet, we stick out the most. We are the thing that doesn't belong. We are the thing that's working against nature. We are the thing that is sentient, that is a thinking machine, improving ourselves all the time. So to me, it's like, what if we are the aliens that we were put on this planet? What if we were engineered on this planet? Or what if we were stranded on this planet and we evolved to be and live on this planet? Those are the theories that I think I like the most. End of the day, guys, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where the technology came from, because the technology itself represents unlimited energy for the world. And my last thought in this is that I was looking at Anna Kasparian, whatever her name is, and she was talking about homeless people. She said, we should not have to go outside and see a homeless encampment. And I couldn't agree more. I just disagree with her conclusion. Her conclusion was, oh, well, that means we have to stop funding Israel. Okay. The amount of foreign aid we're sending doesn't even register as a drop in the bucket. The real problem isn't that we're sending too much money overseas that could be used to help homeless people. The real problem is we have the solution to homelessness. We have unlimited energy. We have the solution to climate change. We have the solution to homelessness. We have the solution to all these things, but we're hiding them for national security. We're hiding them because people's minds are going to break, because people won't be able to accept that they've been getting lied to directly or indirectly, that people were really capable of covering things up from them. We're lying for all the worst possible reasons. And that's the takeaway, I think, about the homeless situation. That's why I'm against the homeless stuff. So, okay. Let's do some super chats, guys. Thank you very much, everybody in the Pill chat and everybody in the Rumble chat. And I do want to point out, some people have said, hey, should you really be burning these bridges? Should you really be being mean to people? I don't care. I know these videos are real. I think that the people that care about how they make people feel are generally grifters, because they're trying to keep people allured. They're trying to keep people mesmerized by the story. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that because I already know the videos are real. If you believe it or not, doesn't change anything at all. Changes nothing. How much you hate me doesn't change the videos being real at all. Nothing I can say will ever change the fact that those videos are real. So I like the fact that I'm playing this on hard mode. I like the fact that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not out here trying to be a UFO grifter personality. I'm not trying to make this into my job. I'm not caring at all about what narratives I say and how people are going to react to them. I'm just out here being an honest guy. And I think that in the end, it'll pay dividends. Because in the end, when people do come to terms with this, it'll be much harder for people to discredit me. It'll be much harder for people to make up alternative narratives and stories, which is going to happen. You can already see the schizo Israel people. The schizo Israel people are already now trying to make MH370 about Israel because they're mad at me. Because they're just like literally little children. Literally the mindset of a 5-year-old. Oh, no, now I think Israel did do it because I don't like you. Like literally retarded shit, right? So that's not going to work in the future because I've now painted myself as somebody who's rational, even though it lost me a lot of followers, lost me a lot of impressions. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of time. Going back to the beginning of this live stream, just a matter of time until an Air Force person comes out and confirms that that's Gorgon Stare, that drone is the Lightning G4 by Northrop Grumman or whatever. And then it's all over. Okay, guys, let's take a look at the super chats. Jai Beach, thank you very much. I appreciate you, everybody. Thank you, Jai Beach. Dino Complizier, thank you very much. I don't know what that means, but thank you very much for that that little whatever that code is. Whoa, Troy. Wow. Holy smokes, Troy. Troy, okay, I got to say this just because, look, if you need your money, please don't donate it to me. Of course, I appreciate all the donations. I'm going to have a very delicious steak dinner with this. But if you are the person that needs your money and what have you, don't donate to me. You know, do something you need with it. I don't want to be one of those streamers that's like, all my followers are like poor people that are giving me their last dollar. I hate that idea. So please don't do that if you need that. You don't need to do that to reach out to me. But thank you, Troy. You're the man. ZPE is the future. Hail to Dave Rossi, Sal, Ashton. Thank you very much. I'm sure Dave and Sal appreciate that too. Sig Saucer. Thank you very much, Sig. Appreciate you, man. And Dino Complizier, 2-day Russia attack UK warship with some new laser. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have quantum weapons. Things are going to start getting real weird. And also those drones that were being seen over Europe, I'm more and more convinced that was really Russian drones. I mean, the proximity makes sense. I'm not sure about the New Jersey drones, if those were China or Russia or what have you, but the ones that were over Europe, I'm pretty sure are Russian. I mean, I'm just speculating, but yeah. Leslie Wisdom, respect for your Pitbull champ on the MH370 story. You're getting to the center of the truth, Tootsie Pop. LFG. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Leslie. Nicholas Newsad. Where did the Reaper drones take off from land? We don't really know, but I was actually being asked this earlier too. They could have come from the Cope Tiger and Cobra Gold exercises that were going on. There were exercises that flanked the disappearance of MH370 by just a couple of days. So those assets would have had to been in the area. They could have also come from Port Blair or Car Nicobar. Those are joint India air bases with the United States. And we found some evidence that there may be drones based out of there. So it's hard to say exactly where drones came from. End of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're there. We can see them recording. So, and it's not like they're in some impossible location they couldn't get to. But it is interesting. So thank you for that question. Sir Lar says, any Dr. Daves can't believe it. Professor Daves, yeah, they're never going to believe it. Zapparoo, fantastic, Ashton. Thank you, and Lulu for the special appearance tonight. Thank you, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoy that article. I think I have a link to it in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. keep spreading the news, guys. The way that we get to the truth is by spreading and sharing the truth about MH370 and the MH370 videos. Whatever that truth is, whatever that stuff means, those videos will expose it. And any of the black projects that go along with it and the technology that goes along with it will all come out, guys. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Peace out, guys. Later.
We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause
infrared eyes, scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. Control 22, a covert gaze. Control 33, in the cosmic maze. Controls in the mix, secrets untold. Silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. Spears, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. And roles in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interests, far and wide. As beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats.